more, and you'll I think that'll help you, because I know that's something that I am. I'm not just, didn't wake up one day and have my identity. I picked up some of my mother's traits. I didn't pick up some traits from Crystal. I didn't pick up some traits from Dr. Sabrina. People who I've seen, and I saw some things that I like. I've added that to who I am as a person. So
Okay. Okay. Now can you go ahead and Kareem, can you
Um,
talk about character? I mean, talk about identity. And then we'll
yeah.
go to Mr. Roberts. We'll go to Mr. Roberts after that.
I think having a solid, like Kalia said, identity is the main thing. When you start going to college, especially if you're going away to school, well, even not away, where if you at home or anything, because you got a whole lot of influences, and a lot of them are bad influences and good influences. I can say me personally, when I went to school, I had a solid identity, but because of the influences, I started to sway and do different things, and I had to come back. And the main thing I learned
Can you
is,
expound really quickly? Can you expound it? What do you mean sway and do different things? Can you be more specific, if you don't mind?
I got out of high school at 16. At 17, I was in basic training at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. At 19, I was at Jackson State. So I had already kind of been a grown man around real grown men in the Army. But when I got to college, I wasn't drinking, I wasn't smoking, but the influence had me into the party scene, the drinking and smoking, while I was more of an athlete, into military, working out and all that. That's all I knew. So it did take me from, instead of me going from straight A to point B, I kind of took shortcuts like we do in Chicago. We take shortcuts. And I had to get back on A to B, you know what I mean?
Right.
And realize that, I'm not gonna let this person influence me to do this and do that, to be cool with everybody. And then just come back to being who I really was. And it took some time, because when you in college, you want to party, you away from home. Even though I had already been away from home, it was a different atmosphere. It was parties going on, different things. And I already did the party scene, but it's a whole different level of it. So you definitely got to keep your head, because a lot of people fall. I've seen a lot of people fall to the drugs, to all kind of different things in college. And the main thing I learned is you have to be yourself. Just stick with being yourself. I learned in acting, taking a lot of acting classes, to be vulnerable, to be yourself. You can't be vulnerable to the point where you're taken advantage of, but you can be vulnerable where you're truthful and being a true you, being your true self, and showing a character like your parents or your grandparents or whoever raised you. If they raised you the right way, you start to take on them characteristics, and the characteristics of people that's positive around you. But you have to go find those people, because definitely it is a lot of different things that's thrown at you, where you could be with people on a partying level, on the drug level, on whatever level, and think it's actually good, and you just walking with the devil. You know what I mean? You just hanging with the devil, and then you have to get back to God. And that's the main thing. If you stick with God, put God first, and keep your identity sound. If you're a black man, like Khalid said, you're a black man, and just stay what you are. And whatever you believe in, you stick with your beliefs. If that's what you believe, whatever you believe in, stick with your beliefs and be solid with it, be firm with it. That's what I would tell any kids. I've been a mentor with Steve Harvey mentoring. I mentored at Bloom Township out in Chicago Heights. I mentored with Chicago Youth Centers with all the project kids, and they got a lot of influences. So when they trying to grow up through life, you got grammar school, high school, you got so many influences. You got to go to college. They might be influencing you. When you get to college, go down there and steal, because that's what you've been doing to make it in life. You can't do that.
To piggyback on that, Mr. Roberts, can you talk about identity and another twist? do you stay away from bad influences? I mean, what would you recommend a student do to stay away from bad influences?
Well, as was stated earlier, if you have a foundation and you're grounded in the word of God, you try to associate yourself with those persons, because like-mindedness work in the environment, and you're going to be coming into a new environment. And one thing that we have seen over the years now is a decline in some spiritual belief and some spiritual grounding. And so if you're coming out of an environment where it was at least practiced a little bit, I would say is you gravitate to those persons who are grounded in the word, and just let your light shine that way, and don't be influenced by others. I think Tyler said earlier in terms of identifying who you are and whose you are. Now I added that piece on there. If you identify what it is you want, you just associate with people like that, and don't get caught up in the maze. I like to say, don't get caught up in the maze. Just stay positive at all times and associate yourself with positive people. And you will find on the college campus, there are going to be some faculty and staff persons who you will gravitate to, as well as some upper class students that you will gravitate to.
Jemiah, how do you stay on the path, and how do you stay so focused, getting those grades and doing the things that you do?
Well, fortunately for me, I kind of always had like an affinity for something in medicine and the health field. So I kind of already knew what path and track that I was on. But one thing that like I feel like people haven't said yet or touched on that's important, in order to be able to understand the influences that you're getting, whether they're positive or negative, something that I had to learn over time is being able to reflect. I feel like sometimes students don't take enough time out of their college experience to kind of like have a day or maybe even a few days, a week, to sit back and reflect on the things that they've been doing, the people they've been surrounding themselves by, and the choices they made, and understanding, was this something that is going to be a positive influence on me, or is this something that's going to be a negative influence on me? Is this making me better, or is this holding me back? And being able to reflect on the things and the people that you have around you and the things that you do, and understanding that difference is the utmost importance. Because if you can't recognize what might be bad for you, or recognize, oh, I might want to do this because this will be positive and this will put me forward, then it kind of defeats the purpose of even trying to get out there and like putting yourself out there and joining different things. Because if you can't sit back and understand, like, okay, maybe I need to realize this isn't something that's good for me, or this is something that's good for me, then you won't really be able to take much out of what you experience in college. So being able to reflect will be able to help you take out the most of everything that you experience and everything that you go through college.
Excellent. Same question, Dr. Davis. How do you stay away from bad influences? I mean, if I'm a student and I like these kids and they seem pretty cool, you know, and they party, and I like to party because this is my first time partying. I'm away from home, but I know I want to study. How do you do that? How do you stay on the straight and narrow?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. Before I respond, I'd like to add a connection to Jemiah's point about reflection. Reflection is one of those pieces that's taught. And oftentimes our kids don't know how to, well, I shouldn't say they don't know how to reflect. They're not aware that that tool is really available to them, because it's not explicitly taught in high school. And if you don't grow up in a home where you have very or highly reflective adults, then where do you learn that skill, right? And that's that's a very mature skill for a young person, even in college, such as Jemiah. I think about my coaching that I do with adults, and I'm talking older adults. I'm surprised a lot of times when I say let's engage in reflection, how there's elements of impatience because people don't want to do that. But it's so critical. And this is why I'm so happy we're having this conference, because even for the parents who are listening, even for the teachers and the administrators who are listening, this is a piece that we need to add early on in the lives of our youth. And they are never too young to begin high reflection. This is going to help them reflect on who they are as a person. As I think about my own college experience and how I stayed away from negative influences, I was a childhood evangelist. But make no mistake about it, when I went to college, there were negative influences. And I fell for the okie doke a couple of times. And I was someone who I knew exactly who I was. That may be rare, but I knew exactly who I was. At 8 years old, I was evangelizing. I knew whose I was as well. But those influences can be so heavy and so hard. This is where you have to dip back in and say, okay, let me pause and let me take a pulse of who I'm around. Let me check. I don't remember who it was that stated, let's look at what other people think of themselves. What's their identity? Those who are around me. Take a pause and check in to say, all right, let me see who this person really is. Should I continue to hang around this person? And how is that going to impact my life? It takes a level of maturity to even begin to think that way. So it's very hard not to succumb to those negative influences if you don't have anything in you to begin with, right?
Wow.
And so you've not been following on that right path. So again, I'm going to go back to as early as possible, young people, for those of you who are listening, maybe you've been around negative influencers. Let's stop right now. It's never too late to stop, and it's never too late to change. Change happens right now. As soon as you become aware of what you're doing, we need to stop and take a different course of action. This is where you can reach out to that good friend who you know is always honest. This is where you can reach out to that counselor, to that, as Dr. Roberts said, to that professor who may be on campus, who can guide you, who you've made a connection with. This is where whoever those solid connections that you've made or who you've connected with, and you know they're going to be honest and they can help you, this is when you pause and go right back to them and say, I need help. Be vulnerable. As Mr. Ali said, be vulnerable enough to say, I need help. I'm not strong enough to walk away from these negative influences on my own. I met people in college like that I mentored. They weren't strong enough. And so I kind of held their hand and walked that path with them. We all need some help. Don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help.
Now that good. You guys really, the entire panel really nailed identity and nailed giving our youth some skills to help them build on who they are and to help them stay strong in who they are, adding different character traits in that reflection piece. I never thought about that, Jemiah. I never thought about that in Dr. Davis until you guys said it. That's key, because you do sit back and you think, Ali, like I think it was Mr. Ali who said it, you think back, gosh, was that the right decision? Oh no, and Tyler, I think Tyler Geary said it too. Is that the right? How could I have done that better? And that's what makes you grow and mature. And you can do that every day. We can do that every day with our decisions that we make every day. So take heed, young people. Listen, know who you are and build on who you are. Don't feel pressured to be something that you're not. You have to be true to who you are. I think Ms. Washington touched on that. Ms. Muhammad, all of you guys, Khalid Scott, Mr. Roberts, all touched on that. Be true to who you are and add on and build and separate yourself. So what, they might call you a nerd and say you're not cool. I used to get called that all the time. I didn't care. I was like, you're right, I'm a nerd. I like learning. What's wrong with that? Is that so bad that I like picking up a book? Okay. So, hey, just be who you are. Okay. Great job, guys. Great job. Moving right along, we're going to go to the next subject area. And we're talking, oh, this is very heavy. We're talking about mental wellness. And we know that our students have experienced being at home, and I've heard on the news 1,000,001 times how a lot of students are feeling depressed now because they haven't been able to get out and socialize because of COVID-19. And it's a lot going on with our babies right now. I mean, a lot. What about the ones who are afraid? when they go away to college and they've been dealing with this pandemic and they feel like, can I really do this? I'm overwhelmed with all these new people. What about the ones who are feeling like, okay, they used to be very popular and on top in high school, and college is a much bigger world, and now they're not on top? Now they're not the smartest person. How do they handle that? What about the loneliness? The ones that are homesick, who are like, well, I want to go home. I'm not used to this. Or isolation. I didn't understand it when I was in college, how the freshmen, they weren't allowed to have their own room. I was like, what? If you want your own room, you should be able to have your own room. But now I understand it now that I'm older because of the isolation piece. If you have a roommate, it forces you to socialize, get along, interact with people. So let's deal with the mental illness, and mental wellness, and we're gonna start with Khalid. Can I really do fear, loneliness? You can address any one of those, Khalid, or isolation.
Okay. I'm a clinician, and I've been working with children from DCFS for the last 28 years. So young people have a lot to deal with. And then, as I said earlier, when you have young people who are making the transition from going from high school to now I'm a young adult in college, or like me and Kareem, we went after high school, we went to the military. And you're so used to your surroundings, and now you have to be brave to transition to this whole new different world. And let's be honest, a lot of us went to college because we used to watch what? A Different World back in the late 80s, early 90s, right?
Yeah.
It gave us that map or that framework of what is this place we're about to get ready to go to? What is it going to have in store for us? How we're going to navigate it? One of the things that, and I've been doing a lot of Zoom presentations with young people, talking about their mental health stability, especially during a pandemic. And remember, parents are trying to figure this out as well, because we've never experienced this in our lifetime. The last pandemic was in 1919, okay? So we all are kind of just trying to figure this out. So kids went from going to school with being with 25, 30 other students in your classroom to I'm sitting in the dining room by myself in front of a laptop. And then you got someone like my daughter, she graduated from Kenwood last year, number 3, and homecoming queen, and really likes school, and then she's ready to go to Amherst, a PWI, and we drive her there and we can't even go into her dorm room and decorate. We have to drop our child off on her 18th birthday in the parking lot. And she had to go up there to her dorm room and decorate and do everything that normally it's this kind of ritual where parents get to go and decorate your child's dorm room with them in order to help both of you or all of you all transition to this whole new world. So what's the positive thing that's going to happen is this pandemic has showed us who we are. And it's showing our kids what they are made of. And whatever deficits they have, now they have to work on them. They have to step up. You know what I'm saying? I was not as computer savvy a year ago as I am now. Now I'm the king of Zoom.
Me either.
You know what I'm saying? I can do 15 things all at once now. But if this wasn't for this pandemic, I wouldn't have known all this. So let's go back to the kids. I'm dealing with kids with post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety disorder, and a whole wealth of different diagnoses. And I'm dealing with kids who, we're finding that I really didn't know who I am. I have always been identified as my parents' child. You know what I'm saying? Or just this person. Now I have to figure out who I am. And the wonderful thing about college, it's a wonderful transitional place to be, okay? Because again, you have to learn how to survive on your own, with assistance, of course, but you still got to figure it out. you still got to learn when you go away to college in the regular settings, how do I get along with this stranger who I'm in a room with? You know what I'm saying? How do I get to class? I'm so used to mommy and daddy driving me, dropping me in front of Kenwood. I just walk through the front door. Now I got to figure out, how do I get to this classroom that's all the way down on the other end of the campus? You know, going grocery shopping, you know, conserving food. I just can't get up and go to a refrigerator no more. You know, this ramen noodle got to last me all week long, you know? So the thing is, we have it in us, especially us African Americans. We are survivors and we're going to handle this. But the wonderful thing too is clinicians like me, now we're having wait lists, because guess what? People are asking for help now. I have more men calling me than my 28 years of being a therapist, calling me, asking me for mental health services. I have teenage boys open to being in therapy, teenage Black boys. How unheard of is that? You know what I'm saying? But we all know that we need help. And in order for us to become stable with our mental strains and challenges, is we have to identify them, own them, and say, I want to do something a little bit better. So again, it comes from within. I can't make my daughter I just can't throw her into therapy. She has to want to do it. And that's what I did last summer. So that's a tip for folks. You got a kid getting ready to go away to college, June and July, maybe set up about 3 or 4 counseling sessions where they can go and sit with a counselor and say, I'm scared.
Wow.
And then they can share things that maybe they don't feel comfortable sharing with mom and dad. And then the therapist can, you know, help them kind of navigate, like, okay, let's validate those feelings. And you know what? It's okay to feel that way, because this is going to be, again, a whole new world. So be excited. I was excited when I get ready to leave CVS and get ready to go into that Army. Though I was scared, I was still excited, because I'm getting off this block. You know, I'm going to be shooting guns and driving tanks, you know, and getting my body tight. So we got to help our kids know, be excited in this time of your life.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Jemiah, excellent. I love that, Khalid. Jemiah, did you feel lonely or isolated when you went away to college, or do you know of anyone who might have felt that way leaving college, or homesick?
Yeah, so since I started college in 2018, I was able to get, a taste of the real like college campus life, because before COVID hit and everything. So I was able to get the initial, excitement the first 2 months you're at college, when you meeting all these new people, you're going to all these events and you're meeting people from different places. Like I'm originally obviously from here, Chicago. And so I went to college in Ohio. So I'm meeting people from Cleveland, New York, New Jersey, all these other big cities, and everything's so exciting for the first 2 months. It's almost hard to even be alone, because you're just around so many new people who also trying to be around more people. But I do remember my freshman year, probably around like right after the first half of the semester had went by, like when midterms were starting to come out and like school was actually getting into it, I started to get a little homesick at first, and I didn't really like realize what it was. I was like just upset or like sad, like randomly, and I'm just like, this isn't like, why am I upset? I'm around all these people, I got all these friends, everything's so fun right now. And I didn't realize that I was even sick of home. And then I ended up calling my mom, and I had talked to her, and we ended up having just a really heartfelt conversation. And I realized, dang, I just miss home. I just miss the people that I was around.
Right.
Having that, like being so comfortable in your environment when you're home, and then you go and you leave, and it's such a drastic change. At first, yes, it's fun and exciting, and then you kind of miss the things that you were used to back at home. And so sometimes as students, you have to realize like everything that you go through is for a reason, and that you're making these experiences to make you a better person. You don't always want to be the person that you were when you were at home. You want to change, you want to grow, and being able to understand that the experiences that you get are positive and not thinking, oh, I'm so lonely, I don't have anybody here that understands me like my people at home. You can kind of get to know, well, maybe these people are going to understand the person I'm becoming to be and stuff like that. So I feel like it's the same thing we kind of pressed on last conversation with just reflecting on everything, because I know sometimes it can get lonely. Even now, it's even worse with COVID and everything. Like, I don't have a roommate. I live by myself. I'm in an on-campus apartment, and so I have to do grocery shopping for myself. I have to do all of that for myself. Before I had a roommate, so if I didn't have no food in my room, I could depend on her and be like, hey, you got some snacks? I can send you real quick. It's the lonely aspect is even worse now, and you don't really see people in person. We're doing Zoom classes for class instead of actual class, and some people like me, they learn better in physical environments because I can ask the teacher right then and there when I don't understand something. I don't have to schedule a meeting afterwards, or I don't have to try to work around their schedule and this, that, and the third. But it definitely hit harder when COVID hit, but just understanding like who you are and being able to have a good support system. That's one of the main points, having a good support system that you can talk to when you're feeling lonely, or that can help you understand what you might be going through and why you're feeling lonely is important as well, because they can help from the outside looking in of what might be the problem, because you might not be able to see it since you're actively going through it.
Excellent. Mary, Ms. Muhammad, can you touch on that? And then Ms. Washington and Tyler?
So when I went away to college, I went down to Tuskegee, and I was 17. My birthday didn't come until the end of August, so I was still considered a minor going away to college and everything. And on top of that, I had surgery on my foot, so I was limping, and I don't know if anybody ever been to Tuskegee, but it's a huge campus, so it's a lot of walking and everything. So I was really struggling to keep my head above water, for lack of a better word. And I did get depressed, and I did get sad, and I did really struggle with, staying above the water. But I just had to keep remembering, okay, why am I here? What was my purpose for being there? Instead of drowning in my pity, I had to just keep, I guess the word is reflect, saying to myself, although I didn't write it down, but I had to stop and say, okay, Mary, why are you here? Why did you go away to school? What is your purpose for being here? And so when I came back to that, when I kept coming back to, okay, my purpose is, at that time, I wanted to be a veterinarian. So I went away to school to be a veterinarian. So I wanted, you want to be a veterinarian. You went to school to pursue this dream or whatever. So that kept me grounded somewhat. And then the other thing is reaching out to others. So at most of the HBCs, you got your clubs, you got your city clubs, you got your Chicago club, you got your New York club, you got, Indiana, whatever. Well, Indiana used to always try to claim Chicago, but we wasn't having that. But
right.
So I joined a Chicago club, and I promise you, that is what kept me at Tuskegee. Those people who were what we call our homeboys and our homegirls, who knew what was going on, what it was like, where we came from. It was like a sense of family. And so if I would give any advice, I would say, find a group of people. And I know that's a little bit difficult now, but I think we're coming out of COVID, so it might be a little bit easier to find a group of people that have some semblance of family for you. Be careful, because just because they're from Chicago doesn't mean that they're necessarily good, positive people.
Right.
So you want to find the people in the Chicago club that are like-minded, that think like you think, that are trying to pursue something positive. And that is what kept me grounded until I was able to reach out. And so then when I started reaching out to other people from other cities, and they got their club, and the Chicago club would compare themselves with the New York club, and the New York club would try to tell us, y'all ain't nothing. And that's how we got to know each other, in a joking kind of way. So it was always like a family thing. And I know on Black campuses, that's a little easier. When you go into the schools where it's predominantly white, that's a little bit more difficult. But I'm coming from my particular experience, so that's how I did it. And another, as a parent, one advice that I would give is to make sure that you check in with your children constantly. Because I sent the daughter away to school a couple of years ago. She went to FAMU and she didn't, she ended up coming back home. And it was because of some things that she was going through that she wasn't able to cope. And I didn't realize it. And when I realized it, it was too late. But I would call, how you doing? Oh, I'm okay. That type of thing. But I didn't really dig deep enough, like I would do with one of my mentees, to find out what was really going on with her. So I would say, check in with your kids. Really, like Maya said, I think I'm saying Jemiah said, she had a heartfelt conversation with her
Mhm.
mom.
Yeah.
Really dig in and talk to your parent and let them know, hey, this is how I'm feeling, so that they can reassure you that everything is going to be all right, because you need that reassurance that it's normal to feel homesick. It's normal to feel
That's
that
right.
way. It's just you got to push through it, and once you push through it and you get to the other side, then you'll see, oh, it was all worth it in the end. So find a club that that you think, remember your purpose, and connect with your people back home. That's my advice.
Okay. Tyler, then Tyler Garrett, then Miss Washington.
No, it was
and
me.
then-
It
Oh.
was me after her.
Okay, Miss Washington, and I apologize, Tyler, and then I would like to go to Mr. Roberts, and then Mr. Ali.
Okay. Hi again. Well, I want to cover two things, and I'm going to tell you about my experience in school, because if it weren't for somebody on this panel gave me flowers, I probably wouldn't have graduated. Okay. So anyway, I want to talk about self-inventory, and I want to talk about the go-to person. And this is during my experience in school. First of all, I came from Chicago. So I was isolated from all my family. I had no help. I didn't know what to do. First of all, I sent myself there. Didn't know what I was doing. I thought I was going to know people, Prairie View, that story of that picture about the movie about Prairie. I thought it was just going to be grass. I didn't know it was going to be no black people, no nothing. I just thought I was going to go to school and do my thing. But when I got there, it was not like that. Everybody from all walks of life was there, and everybody was trying to get their grind on and stuff like that. So I was doing a whole lot of crazy things instead of going to school, because I was free, because I was raised in the projects. So I all this freedom, but when nobody helping me get where I need to go. So I made a mistake. I ran into this guy. I wound up marrying him, which is Tyler's daddy. Anyway, he was called in my room. I got kicked out of school. Okay. So before I got kicked out of school, I used to socialize, network, all those things you guys talking about. Had I not socialized, had I not met with my instructors, letting them know where I was from, what I was doing, what I wanted to do in life. Like I started off as a nurse, but then because I couldn't stick nobody with a needle, I wound up being in counseling, all because I got feedback and talking to people, saying, what was going on with me. They always say, girl, you talk too much. Girl, don't nobody want to listen to you. Oh, girl, don't tell nobody that. Oh, girl, they're going to look at you real crazy. But you know what? Because I interacted, I put balance in my curriculum there by socializing, by getting together with peers, telling my instructors my plight. So anyway, I got kicked out of school. Okay. So the dean told me I couldn't come back to school. I had to wait a whole year. Okay. So then I had to do self-inventory. I said, oh, hell. Oh my God, I can't go back home. I just came from Chicago. I'm bragging all here. I went to school. Everybody else still at home in the projects and things like that. Oh, they on welfare. Oh my God, I was on welfare too. We was on welfare too, Mac. But I had my own place at the age when I was 15. So I came to make something. I said, oh, I can't go back, because they said, oh, Lord have mercy. So I said, what I'm gonna do? So my significant other, he didn't go back right away because he didn't know how to articulate himself. And I'm saying this for a reason. If you don't know how to talk, if you don't know how to speak up to yourself, or if somebody say you can't make it and you believe that because they're all in your head, don't let them do that to you. Try self-inventory. Say, wait a minute now. I came here for a reason. I came to go to school. Let me see who can help me. Now, mind you, by me networking, I came back to school that next semester. I got kicked out in December the 7th on my birthday. Anyway, I came back in January. I got kicked out. I was going with Tyler's daddy. Got kicked out of school. Anyway, so I didn't let that defeat me. So I went back to school. I remember what somebody told me. They said, because I was so nice helping people and socializing, if I ever get in trouble, come see them. It just happened to be A.R. Thomas, the president. Okay. So I say, I'm going back to school. I can't go back to Chicago. So anyway, I went back to school and I'm cutting a lot of stuff out. Anyway, I went back to school and I went to the president's office to see A.R. Thomas. And so somebody by the name of Frederick Roberts Esquire, who later on was my boss. Thank God he knew that I was of substance. Otherwise, he wouldn't have hired me later on, and he gave me a big time job. So anyway, I'm saying all this to say that you can't give everybody their flowers. I'm giving Mr. Robert his flowers. He gave me my flowers when I'm still. He calls me to get my education and to think twice and not to be out there dibbling down and do what I came to do because he fussed me out real bad. So anyway, getting back to the story. So I went to the president's office. He was sitting up and I didn't know him, but he knew of me. He knew that, whatever I was doing, he liked it. So anyway, he went to tell the president I was here. Next thing I know, he gave me a pass to get my son. I think this is his first time hearing the story. He gave me a pass to get back in school. So I got back in school. My significant other was so shocked. Girl, you got back in? I said, yeah. I said, sure, huh? I can go back home. And so anyway, Mr. Roberts calls me to get back in school. So when I got back in school, then I had to put on my head that I got to take care of it. I got to walk, walk a certain kind of way because I got to make sure this person who believed in me, that I do all the right things, because it was that person who believed in me caused me to believe in myself to continue to do what I want to do in life. Okay, that's the self-inventory, go-to person. So because of Mr. Roberts gave me my flowers, I went on to work for the Memorial Student Center because Prairie View gave me my academic foundation. So my grandmother always told me we got to uplift the Black male because the female gonna be all right. That's what she said. I didn't understand that at first, but then I understood she was talking about the Willie Lynch letter, whatever like that. Anyway, she said that females, we somehow we got that extra, that extra intuitive, not saying the males don't have it, but we got to help the males because the males were shunned on coming up in life. I'm just going to keep it real. Coming up in life, they gave us welfare where they didn't get a men welfare. Okay. So anyway, she said we had to uplift the Black male. So having said that, I said, let me stay in school. And so what I did was became a Memorial Student Center director. Thank God, Mr. Roberts knew I wasn't no wayward woman. He gave me a job. And so I worked there for 13 years. And I said, you know what? I'm going to bring everybody in. I'm going to tell them what went through, what happened to me, what I walk. And I say, if I took 15 steps, you only going to have to take 5 with this recipe that I have to give you. And going back to what you said, Dr. Davis, they go to school. You don't have that insight. You got to have the village to help these people. So along with myself and Mr. Roberts and student activities. Mr. Roberts was over student activities, the whole auxiliary, the whole gambit. So therefore, it was his responsibility to help the individuals that walk through school to help them get where they want to go. Not only in their academics, but their social life. And that's where they lacking it, when it comes to their social life. So we out there night and day giving functions. If they get out of school, we right there at their door, making sure they're doing what they have to do. I'm going if they're not going to class, I'm coming to their room. You got to go to class. I get you. They cuss me out and whatever like that. I didn't care. But at the end of the day, they said, "Oh, thank you so much. Oh, we so glad. You so crazy, Miss Washington. Oh, we love you. Oh, come on, do this. Come on." It's like what somebody said. They pick up your traits and stuff like that. Oh, you know what? When so-and-so say that they weren't going to give me that class, it was closed. I went to Mr. Roberts, not that Mr. Roberts, Mr. Roberts. And I told them that they better open that class because I paid for my education and I can't go home. Mr. Gary said, you can't go home because otherwise we're going to be judged. I ain't worried about being judged. I just want to get my education. So having said that, I was able to put my hands on a lot of students. And that's what we have to do. We have to give back. Our ancestors paved the road for us. And now it's time for us to do it. And I just call the new generation kind of microwave kids because they're computer and they on the computer, stuff like that. Huh? No, they're on the computers and they not having a lot of personal contact. Before the corona come in, they weren't having a lot of personal contact. And you got to have that personal contact. You got to have intimate relationships. And that's the only way you're going to vibe. That's just my opinion, I feel. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Washington. Tyler, Garrett, can you expound on loneliness, the mental wellness? We're talking about mental wellness, being alone, being afraid, being isolated.
So there's no way we can avoid those feelings to begin with. And aside from the things that have already been said to kind of help with those things, having somebody who is a center for you is going to be very important as you're trying to reach out and figure out how you move forward or what your next steps are. And that could be, for me, it was my parents when I was going through school, or it could be like a best friend, just somebody who knows you before you go into college, who knows what you're about, so that you can always check in with them, bounce things off of them. They can be your sounding board. And sometimes all it takes is just talking it out loud with them. They don't even have to say anything for you to figure out, you know, what you need to do, or just so you can feel better. And I know there was various times throughout all my degrees where I didn't know how I was going to make it to the next step, or I was overly concerned about something, or maybe my friends wanted to do something and I didn't necessarily have my priorities straight. And I wanted to do that thing, but I wasn't thinking about how it was going to affect me. And so having that person who is your center, who you can always go back to, is just very helpful, especially if, like, when we're doing the introspection and we're doing the reflection and we're lost in our own thoughts, sometimes we can get carried away. And so making sure that we're doing that reach out to our center, kind of like what I think Miss Mary was talking about with her checking in with her daughter, making that connection helps for that communication to happen, so that we don't drive ourselves down the wrong alley because we don't have somebody there to help guide us, help be our like GPS through life.
Oh, wow. Powerful, powerful. Mr. Roberts?
Well, thank you very much, Miss Kim Washington, for the testimony. I was only doing God's work. That's what I was doing. Because originally I'm from the Bahamas. And so when I came to Prairie View, I was what I'd like to call myself not your ordinary freshman, because I started college at 22, having graduated from high school at 16. But I went to work in the Bahamas. And when I came to Prairie View, I wasn't taking no mess from anybody. And I also made sure that students who I came in contact with would not do the same either, take mess from anybody, because they were paying their monies. I want to add something at this point. Miss Mary mentioned the reference to the parents being vigilant in their children's lives when they're on college. One of the things that parents, and I'm glad she said it, because with this new law, you know, they got the law called FERPA. You know, if the federal, I forgot what it's called, but anyway, you can't get information about your children from the university if you don't sign a document.
Wow.
And these kids are so smart now, they will sign it while you're there. And when you leave, they will go take your name off the list. So your parents will never know what's going on with the children. So I'm glad she mentioned that, because it's important that you reach out to your children to find out, because they are not going to tell you. And so I just wanted to mention that. So, you know, we're living in a new environment now, in this new world, and everything is instant for these young people. They don't realize what they're missing, because they have this thing called a smartphone, but the smartphone is nothing for them, because they're sitting next to each other texting as opposed to communicating with each other. So what I want to make sure is that the young people understand that while technology is good, you still need that human connection, and you need to find it on campus. Like I said earlier, in terms of the faculty and the staff that's there, the hometown clubs, that provided a great opportunity for students to come together. And if you have a special interest and you don't see it on campus, start it yourself, because you will find there are going to be people out there who may have the same interest, who may be shy, don't want to do it, but the minute they see it happen, they will want to do it. I learned from Dr. Alvin I. Thomas, having worked in his office, as Ms. Washington stated. I was more mature than the average college freshman, because I had worked. So I worked in the president's office, and he exposed me to a lot of things that put me in administration. And I want to add this point here: don't be afraid to change areas that you're in, because I came to the Prairie View with the intent to get a bachelor's degree in accounting, a master's degree in business administration, a degree in law, and to go back home and become the governor of the bank. And would you believe 47 years later, I'm still in Texas. I don't have my law degree. I have the MBA in the accounting, but I have been practicing student and human development for the last 40 years. So
Wow.
don't be afraid to change your major, what life may have for you. I was just a stubborn person. I said, I'm gonna have to get this degree, even though I'm not gonna use it. But I did use it because I balanced student lives. I tell the student, let's work on your assets. Let's work on your liabilities. Let's look at your investments. So I use my accounting experiences in working with young people. And like with Miss Washington, you know, she was one of those students that I knew there was something deep down inside that she wanted to do, but she got caught up with the wrong crowd, and we had to get her out of that crowd. We had to get her out of that crowd so that she could give back to students from her experiences, and also to share with them what they need to do in life. Her niece, Crystal, found out 40 years later that I was Kim's boss. She didn't even know I was because I didn't tell anybody. It wasn't important to me. It was helping young people. And Jemiah, I'm very proud of you because the experiences that you have, you can share it with other students and make sure that, as Ms. Washington said, it took her 15 steps, and she don't want the other people to all they need to do is take 5. And so I want to encourage the young people who are out there is that make up your mind, what is it you want, and reach out to people who will be there to help you. Don't get discouraged. You know, we're talking about mental health, and a lot of us don't want to talk about mental health because in our race, we always think you're crazy the minute you want to talk to somebody. Crazy. And we're not. We have to talk to until this country adopt the philosophy that mental capacity is an illness. We're going to still be in the same category. But we as a group of people have a responsibility to help our young people and help the rest of the world to see what is best for all of us. And that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Mr. Ali?
Yeah.
You have a daughter in college, right, at Dillard. Did she ever tell you about loneliness, isolation? Did you ever experience it? And if so, how did you handle it, or how did she handle it?
Well, I got 2 daughters. One goes to the University of Memphis, and the other one is at Dillard. Well, she went to Arkansas Pine Bluff, the one that's at Dillard first, and that was her first time being away from school. She really kind of never really gave me indications that she was depressed. My other daughter, though, in the University of Memphis, gave me indications she was more homeschooled through high school, so she wasn't used to college, and she got really homesick and everything and kind of depressed. But she reached out to me, and I would talk to her. It's just like Mr. Roberts said, and everybody's saying, you got to communicate with your parents, your family, friends, and talk to them. And, you know, talking to people is kind of therapy too, you know, with that. Me personally, I mean, I didn't never really get homesick because I was ready to get out of Chicago. You know, I was like, let's go. I'm trying to save my life here. You know, it's a life and death situation. You know what I'm saying? So, but and to some people who grew up in the ghetto or in abusive or dysfunctional families, like a lot of us have, you carry some of them traits to you to college. But one thing that I know that's a positive trait that you carry is that you wanted to get away, because in the hood, they tell you going to school, you're a lame. Going to school, you're a lame. You're not in the streets done. So if you're really trying to go away to school, you really want to do something with your life, because you can easily fall through the cracks. And a lot of the things with the mental aspect of everything is you have to think positive and stay on your direction and stay positive, because a lot of kids, they self-medicate themselves, because you know, nowadays weed is like everything. It's legal. It's not legal for kids, but it's easily accessed. And the marijuana at this stage is not the same marijuana when I was going to school, to keep it real. So they taking drugs to have parties, of course. So you might be stressed about your class. You want to smoke this, smoke a joint here and there, but they self-medicating themselves. They might be depressed. They might have just a little stress that it could be nothing. They say, well, I went to counseling myself because my counselor told me the way I deal with stress when I was in college is that my brain, a portion of my brain was so used to having alcohol that it was a portion of my brain that whenever I had stress, it would send a signal to me that I needed a drink or I needed to smoke. And so it got so used to that. And that opened my eyes because I was like, really? I didn't know that. I just thought that's just something that's just something that everybody do. But it's kind of like the mental things that kids go through is way more intense than a lot of people understand. And with this self-medicating, they have to stop. The marijuana and the alcohol is one of the biggest things that the college kids have to try to curve. Because right now, everybody's smoking weed. Okay, everybody, the nerds, everybody. The people
No, not everyone.
No, I'm not saying everyone.
Right. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Yeah.
But my
Quite a
point
few.
is, the people that really wasn't into that thing, that's the end thing. So, and it causes mental illnesses. I've talked to professionals that said a lot of kids that smoking marijuana in high school, by the time they get to 17, 18, 19, they can start getting mental illnesses. So my whole thing is, the biggest thing is to try to cut back and curb the intake of the drugs, the marijuana, and the alcohol to succeed. You know what I mean? The reason I'm saying it is I did it. You know what I mean? It does affect you later on in life. And a lot of people don't know. We 20, 19, we think we inevitable. I mean, we invincible, but we're not invincible. It affects you later on in life. So the main thing with the depression and all that, the isolation, you have to just stay focused, pray, and think positive, because a lot of people, they're around negative things and they think of negative things all the time. What happened in their childhood, what happened before, and they realize they done already pushed away from the environment they're in, and now they in a college setting. You gotta just push forward and keep positive thoughts. That's my main thing. Just keep positive thoughts and stay away from drugs.
Yeah, and to piggyback on what you said, Kareem, I do hear of more students now that have using this new marijuana, ending up in mental hospitals. I just had a young lady tell me a couple of weeks ago about her daughter who was away at college, doing well and experimenting with this new marijuana, and she's in and out of mental hospitals now. She can't get it back. She can't get it together. So it's like you have to be very, very careful with that self-medicating. And I think you something about, you said pray and stay focused and talk to somebody. Reach out, talk to somebody. They have counselors on campuses, and reach out to them. That's why they're there. Reach out, like Mr. Roberts said, to an administrator or Jemiah, Dr. David, your friends. Talk, because when you talk about it, you release it. I do know that I was homesick for a minute, but I knew I had to keep going. That time passed. But then there were some young ladies that I started out with that were homesick and they left. So it go when you get Jemiah, just like you said, it's for a moment. You're having fun, then it hits you, and then it passes because you're so in tune and focused on what you're doing. You forget about, gosh, okay, I'll see them Christmas. Then you start traveling with your friends. And I'm not coming home Thanksgiving. Oh, I'm not gonna make Christmas. Oh, that's right, I'm going to New York. So you're growing, so you grow out of that. So just keep at it. My young students. We're gonna go to the next.
One thing I wanted to say.
Go ahead.
Well, one more thing.
Real briefly, because we're briefly, Kareem, because we're behind for our next subject.
The thing that Miss Washington said is absolutely true. When I was in school, the women, no matter what party they did or whatever they had going on, they did their work, and they do uplift. They uplift the men. They can they can make a Obama. That's for sure. Michelle,
Actually,
and ain't no doubt about it.
actually,
Ain't no
Kareem,
doubt about that.
Kareem, actually, that's actually what we're going to go into right now. Balancing. How do I manage and focus classes, work, social life, dating, different activities? One of the things that I have found out that a lot of males end up on academic probation the first semester because they're partying. So many women on campus and they're just having a wonderful time. It's the first time away from home. And it's like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And so they're not balancing. So what do you do to balance? I'm going to go to Jemiah, Dr. Davis, and then we'll take it from there. What do you do to balance? How did you balance all of that, Jemiah? How do you do it if you have to work and everything?
Yeah, so well, unfortunately, again, I was always kind of like a nerd in school, so I like school, and I like going to school, I like learning. But one thing that I had to learn when I got to college was time management. And like in high school, obviously, I still like I worked my senior and a little bit of my junior year in high school, but it wasn't like that big of a job. And I had people that would drop me off and take me places, this and the third. But getting to college, having to manage your classes,
Maya?
3 p.m. in the afternoon, you might have an 8 a.m. class, and then you might not have another class till 1 o'clock. And then you might have a late class that goes from 5 to 8. And so you have to be able to manage your time in between that and say, well, if I have this 4-hour break in between the morning, I can use that time to do my work. If I have this time, I can use that time to go meet with my organization. And you have to be able to understand how to manage your time when you are doing things. And that was something that I had to learn because I didn't really necessarily know how to manage my time before I got to high school, because there wasn't things that I was responsible for as much until I got to college.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. Dr. Davis?
Yes, excellent point. Balance is key to your survival, because you need time for class, you need time to study, you need time to have fun. You know, you're a college student, you're young, you need to have fun. You need to have some type of social life for those connections. We communicate, but we need to connect with people as well. And honestly, for me, I was the nerdy student, but I was the student who believed the lie that you could work in organized chaos. And it took me all of my adult life to understand that I was living a lie. But I'm gonna tell you right now, there's no such thing as organized chaos.
That's right. That's right.
Organized and manage your time. So what worked for me was I actually had a mentor. She was the director of multicultural affairs at Dominican University. I went to a predominantly white institution. And so things were quite different for me. You talk about a different world. But I would meet with her and she taught me this wonderful skill called keeping an agenda. So in order to organize my time, like literally, I would write it out on paper. And I mean, just to be honest with you, I have a journal here now, and I still use that same tool today. So whatever tools you are learning from people, keep them in your toolbox, because they not only help you through college, they help you through life. So in my agenda, literally, I would go from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. and I had all of my spaces filled. And it was very tedious in the beginning, but I would write out my class schedule. So what time am I in class? All right, what time am I studying? How long do I think it's going to take me to study for these particular classes or to get my work done? I was an English major, so anything around humanities came really easy for me. I didn't have to spend as much time. In math, I needed to spend double the time studying or working with someone. And I would write that out on my agenda. When am I going to have fun? I had the time in there. Again, I was a childhood evangelist, so prayer was very important for me. It wasn't just that my mother and others prayed for me, I prayed for myself. So I had a prayer time on my agenda so that I knew where I was going to be in the day, and it helped to keep me organized. Again, like I said, it was very tedious in the beginning, but you get to a point where it's in your head and you literally don't need to write it down anymore. But if you don't do that, it's so easy to get off track. And then I also, by doing that, I could also look to see, okay, where do I need support? This is when I can reflect, where do I need support and when am I going to get that support? because I needed to be able to fit that into the day. Like Jemiah, I worked through college as well. So it made it even more important to stay organized. Keep it somewhere in your room. So even when people come in, because you're young and you may not want to say, I can't party with you right now, I can't go out with you right now, folks begin to look at how you operate your life. Oh, I see on your, oh yeah, you can't go, it's 5 o'clock, you can't go out with us. Okay, we'll catch you later. It let me off the hook. I didn't have that pressure. It released pressure from you and having to answer to anyone. Do you have to answer to them? No, but there is pressure there and you feel that by all means. So it's okay to be able to tell people, this is going back to your identity. This is who I am. This is what I do. This is how I do it. And I'm sticking to it.
Hey, I love it. I love it. Tyler, Garrett, balance. How did you balance it all in college? And what would you tell young students? And Mary Muhammad, you're next.
I don't like following poetry. I don't know. Oh, when it came to balance, one, I had to make sure I had my priorities straight, right?
Right.
What are the main things that I want to get out of today? What are the main things I want to get out of this month, this year,
Okay.
this semester? Jemiah talked about, managing your time and having your classes set a certain way. I know whenever I first got into college for my bachelor's, I made sure to get my degree plan. So I knew exactly what classes I had to take, which ones were offered in the spring versus the fall. Because if you mess up, then you got to wait a whole nother year to get those classes. And that's how we have all these 5-year degrees. And then also, who the teachers I want to take and what time were they offering classes? Because I like to eat breakfast and I like free breakfast. So I was always in the cafeteria. So I made sure that I had a class that started in the morning so that when we got out, I can go straight to eat and then I can go back to my dorm room. That was important for me every semester. Anyways, so knowing that I like to eat, knowing that I like to get my studies out of the way earlier in the day so that I can have more of my free time at night, knowing what I like to do with my free time, those set what my priorities were so that I could make sure I had balance in my life. And anytime I felt off balance, were usually around midterms, where I knew going into it that I'm not going to get to do those things that I like to do normally. I'm going to probably, miss on some sleep. I'm be staying up to do this, that, and the other, but it's only for a short period of time. So I know that if I just put in this effort now, I'm going to get my balance back after midterms or finals are over with. So to recap on all that is knowing what my priorities are, knowing, what my identity is, again, knowing what it is that I like to do and what it is that I need to do. I took all of those and put them in perspective so that I could create my balance because I knew I needed that.
Excellent. Miss Mary Muhammad.
Okay, so with me, I think about it's going back and evaluating who you are, your character traits, right? So you need to know what type of person are you, a nocturnal person, or you are like a nighttime person, or you a daytime person. And I am not a morning person. I am just like, the mornings are just not my thing. And I've been working on it. I promise you, I've been praying to God, I could please, I feel like I could be more productive if I could be more of a morning person, but I'm not. I'm a nighttime person. I've been like this like all my life, and I'm still like that. I'm up in the middle of the night, and that's when I'm doing my thinking, I'm doing this or that. So I set my schedule where my classes will be in the afternoon because I knew that I could, like an 8 o'clock class, that was just like torture to me. Like, you got to get up, like your first semester, they're going to do what they want to do with you. They're going to give you 8 o'clock class, they're going to have and then you figure out, okay, I can set my own schedule. I could make my classes, like you could do one class a day. I'm sorry, 3 hours, right? Each class, for the most part, is 3 hours. So you could do the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 1 hour, or you could do the Tuesday and Thursday. At least that's the way it used to be. 90 minutes, or you could do one day for 3 hours. Okay, so you got to know what you can handle. And so I could handle like one day in the evening, and I could take those afternoon classes. So I set my schedule where my classes will be in the afternoon or will be in the evening because I knew that was best for me. And then I could stay up at night and study. I'm a midnight person. So I would stay up at night, be up, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning studying. And then in the morning, I didn't have to get up and go to class. I could sleep until a certain time. So you got to know yourself. So that's how you balance yourself. And you think, okay, I could do this. This is the way I function. This is best for me. And so that's what I did. I was up in the middle of the night. I would be up studying, and then in the morning time, I'm asleep during it until 10 o'clock or whatever the time is, and then I can get up and get ready for class and stuff like that. So that's where my balance came in. As far as parties and stuff, I'm not going to sit here and say that I never ever got off track, like did too much partying or did too much of this or that, and then didn't do well on a test or something like that because I was doing something else. So that's where you got to go back and say, okay, now you know what? You can't be messing up on these tests. You can't be blowing these test assignments. You can't be blowing this homework assignment off. And because that's not why you're here. You're not here to party. You're here to get an education. So this can't happen again. So these are, times where you have to self-evaluate, tell yourself, I got to get back on point. I got to get back into these books and stuff like that because I'm not trying to take this class over for some foolishness. If I'm gonna take it over, it's gonna be because I really need to take it over, but not because I was out doing stuff that I didn't have any business doing. So it's about knowing yourself. What type of person are you? A morning person? Are you an afternoon person? Are you an evening person? And then it's about you prioritizing what's most important. And if you like to party, just make sure that when you party, right, when you party, that it doesn't interfere with anything. So if you know that this fraternity is gonna have a party on Friday night or whatever, you gotta make sure you get all your stuff done on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Or you gotta say, okay, now if I go out to this party Friday night and I know I'm gonna be out all night, then Saturday I know I'm not gonna be able to study. So then you say, okay, well Sunday I'm gonna be able to, so you have to, be honest with yourself. This is I already planned for this. I already got this party planned in mind. So this is what I'm gonna this is the way I'm gonna do it. So balancing is pretty much knowing yourself and being honest with yourself. I would say that.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I would do. Ms. Muhammad, I know I love parties. And so when I knew there was a big party going on, one of the fraternities or sororities giving a party, I would study my butt off during the week. It was like, oh my gosh, because I know the party is Saturday and I have a test Monday. I was like, I have to bang it out and study all week long so I can party hard Saturday and recuperate Sunday and get ready for the test on Monday. And that's just, I can't, let's just be honest. That's what I did. I balanced it out. I balanced my work schedule out, balanced out doing my homework, everything, because I knew I was on a mission. Mr. Ali, and we're going to go to Mr. Roberts, then Ms. Washington, and then Mr. Scott.
Well, I have to say, I have a friend who was getting like extremely good grades, and he started partying.
Was that you?
No, it wasn't me. I was never getting good grades. I was partying all the time. Balance was. I was like, balance? Who name is that? No. What is a balance? I came here to party. No, but seriously, my friend and his parents got him back on track. They said, hey, man, you need to get yourself together. We're not gonna send you no more money. Buy beer.
Right.
Yeah. And they said the same thing to me too. Eventually, after I kept asking for money, they figured that, oh, this is beer money, and they stopped. So a lot of the parents started figuring out them $40, $50 and all that is not just for food and groceries. It's for beer. So, I'm just keeping it real. Don't be a fool. My daughter was getting $250. I was like, oh no, $250 a month? No. So it's you if somebody come to you and say, hey, you need to get yourself together. Like Mr. Roberts said, though, it is difficult to find out things with the kids because I had to try to find out my kids' grades because she wouldn't tell me her grades. And you can't just, it is not like you can find out their grades and they don't have to give it. So you have to communicate, and you do have to talk to the kids, communicate like over the phone, and also go see them and
Yeah.
get them balanced. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Right.
Get them balanced.
Right. Mr. Roberts. Excellent, Kareem.
Get them balanced, especially if you're paying money for tuition and
Right. Right.
party money too.
That's
Hair and
right.
nails. Okay.
Right. That's right. Mr. Roberts.
Well, for me, as I said, balance for when I came to Prairie View, I came with a mission. So I knew what my limits were, and I knew what my limitations were, and I knew my purpose. I was a crazy freshman. I took 21 hours my first semester as a freshman, and I worked 20 hours a week. That was a mistake. I thought when I took them 20 hours, and I liked it. So next semester I took 22 hours.
Oh, okay.
I had time, but I was different. I was a different kind of young person. I averaged what I wanted out of life, and I figured I was going to get it. And whatever cost it was to me, I was going to finish my degree. And coming out of the British environment, 8 classes was nothing for me. That's the way it was for me. But I set an example for other people. I said, look, if I can do this and still make a 3.6 and a 3.5, I don't understand why you can't make it with 12 hours. I just couldn't see it. But now I say that to say this, in terms of balancing yourself, and you know what it is you want, you plan your life out. As Miss Mary said, and Dr. Davis also said, I had a schedule, and that schedule says you do this at this time, you do that at that time. And when folks knew don't mess with me Monday through Friday, because I'm not doing nothing outside of what I'm supposed to do for my schoolwork and for my job. And I didn't wait for the exam, the week of the exam to study. I was studying at all times. People right now, I can tell you, I average probably about 5 hours sleep every night because I still have the same schedule I used to have. In terms of balancing, one, I learned when I was growing up that the devil has work for idle hands. And so I made sure, the devil was never gonna have no friendship.
Right,
so
right.
Always busy. He never could get to me. Right. So I think that's probably why he got some of my friends, because I had no time for him. And I did what I needed to do. And so I say to the young people, it goes back to your innate feeling. What is it you want for yourself? And we talked earlier about the reflection. What is it do you want? Don't matter what the other people say. Don't care what they say. If you didn't care what they say in high school, why are you gonna worry about some folk when you get to college?
Right.
So I had a schedule. I set my schedule, and I knew what it is I needed to do, and I focused. I stayed focused. I was a partier, okay, but my parties were Friday night and Saturday evening. After midnight on Saturday, don't mess with me, because I'm going to church Sunday morning and I'm going to start studying again. And so I set up the routine for me, and that's how I was able to get through. When I told them I had 42 hours as a sophomore, they said, how did you do that? Did you go to summer school? I said, nope. I just took 21 hours the first one, and I'm 43, 21, and 22, and I made a 3.6 my first semester and a 3.5 my second semester. And those were no easy classes. Those were reading classes.
Right.
And so I just encourage the young people to stay focused on what it is you want and associate yourself with like-minded people. And don't matter what they call you, because the folks who talk about your light being so bright, you just give them a bulb and let them light their own light and move on.
Right. Miss Washington and then Mrs. Scott.
I would like to talk about balance from 2 perspectives, because I was that student, and then also my son was that student at school. But because Kareem, I want to piggyback on something you said for us, balance when it came to the parents. Well, how I was able to connect with my son when he was in Prairie View is that I set him up where I can get to him, washed his clothes, went there to wash his clothes, go bring food to him in the door, going in the door. So, but I didn't go in there as a threat. I balanced. I said, oh, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. Now, if he said he didn't want me in there, then I respect that. But I also said, look, let me be the one that tell your story before somebody else tell your story, because I can help you with your story. So let me in the door. Go in there. You're right. They won't let you see their grades or nothing like that. But I was very intrusive, but in a good way, because I'm very funny. So I was in there. I knew when the grades was going to come out. So I'll go in his house and get on the bed, just interact with him. And I just say a couple of things, and then they want to tell me what's going on with them. And I keep on reiterating, saying that I'm the one can help you. So let me help you with your story. And there was an incident when the teacher wasn't giving him his right grades. My son, he was straight A. He was this. This professor couldn't understand that. But thank God this professor used to be my boss, not Mr. Roberts, another one. I knew his character. So I called him up and said, wait a minute. Hello? You messing with somebody that knows something. But had my son not told me what was going on, he didn't even know that person used to be my boss too. So I knew I can get to him a certain kind of way. So when he found out that was my son, hey, it was a whole new different perspective. He started letting my son teach the class, but that's only because I was able to get into my son and not judge him. And we can't judge our kids. That's what they're afraid of. That's why they don't want us in their life, because they think we're going to judge them. They say, oh, that's back when you was there. And it's not like that now. Well, help me to know now so I can help you know what I know so we can balance it out. Okay, so that's for the parents. Parents, get in there even though they don't want you in there. Just show up. Just say you're going to speak to them. Bring them
Trick your
something.
kids is what she's saying. I didn't know I was being tricked.
Yeah, well, I had to make sure you made it. You know what? He made a promise to me. I said, never put tattoos on you. To this day, he don't have any tattoos on him. So evidently, whatever I did, it worked. But back to, let me talk about myself, okay? Here's the other perspective. And and y'all, I'm just keeping it real, okay? Thank God to Mr. Roberts again, not judging me. We are wired different, okay? And the teachers don't differentiate. They don't teach the way our brain is wired. And I didn't know until I was 53, I was dyslexic. I didn't know that, okay? So while you all was trying to balance your life in school, I'm talking to everyday students. I'm not saying they didn't have some situations going on with them or not, but I had some things going on with me. So anyway, back to the everyday student balancing, want to party, getting your class and things like that. I was not dealing with that. My balance was dealing with the way my brain was wired, okay? So I had to come up with a way, and I didn't want to be judged. Your identity. I'm afraid what people are gonna say about me, right? So I didn't want them to know I was struggling. So while y'all go home and do something, I go in the bathroom and rewrite my lesson because I want to make sure I make it. Okay. So what I did was I was very funny in school. I was the loudest one in school, doing my thing because I didn't want nobody to know that I had some deficits. But I didn't give up. I couldn't give up because I had to get my degree. That's what I came for. And then I had to bring other people in because they was depending on me. So I had to find balance to deal with my struggle that was going on with the way my brain was wired, that I wasn't getting the education. Because when I was in school, they didn't teach me how to deal with the phonics. They just pass you. They just kept on passing you. All my mother says that I could be the biggest what I want, just go to college. And that's what I did. So I had to come up with my own recipe to deal with these deficiencies that I had going on with me. Yes, I struggled. I took classes over again, but my best classes where I found my balance was summer school. I couldn't wait to go to summer school because I get to see the teacher every day. I made straight A's in summer school. My son is just hearing about this because it's not time to tell the story, but not since it's time to tell the story. Because I want the students to know that if you're struggling, work through it. If you got 2 legs, 2 arms, and a head, you can do it. I did it, y'all. I did it. So anyway, I hung around people who had good academics. I make them laugh, cook for them, and whatever I did, then they let me study with them, and they helped me, and they put my information on tape. Like they would record themselves talking about the subjects, and then I would have the microphones in my ear, and I listen, and I go to the class the next day and try to figure it out, and I still don't figure it out. But then when I got ready to take the test, I had anxiety and stuff, like all this stuff was going on with me. How do I work? I did not give up because I couldn't give up. So back to the balance with the way my brain was wired. So I just write all my stuff down. I did party, I ain't gonna lie. I did go to Red Roost that night and come back home, wake everybody else to go to school. And I, just like she said, I go sleep in the daytime, make sure my class is in the evening time. And then when everybody leave, I get out my books and study because I was having a hard time pronouncing it. I struggled, guys, but it didn't look like I did because I was putting on a facade. But I made it because what? Summer school. So that's what my balance was. Couldn't wait for summer school.
Excellent, 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 Ms. Washington. Mr. Scott?
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll round this all off. Young people, I want you to hear this and be real clear about it. As 17, 18-year-olds entering college or maintaining while you're in college, you have to know what your priorities are. I left out of CDS High School going into the Army, and I went into the Army for 2 years, and I had to drive a tank. Did I want to go to the Army? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I did not want to go to the Army. I wanted to go to Morehouse right after high school, but my mother was not rich. Okay, I didn't have a rich family, and I knew I had to pay for my education. And what the Army did for me, I was already an old soul, mature young man, but the Army reinforced my maturity. It reinforced my sense of responsibility, and it reinforced my mindset of prioritizing what is important. So my freshman year down at Morehouse, I was 20 years old. So unlike the other freshmen who were partying and doing whatever they were doing, I was laser beam focused because why? I sacrificed 2 years of my life to drive tanks and go to boot camp. So I wasn't at school to party. I was mission driven. I knew I didn't want to come back to Terratown, 76 in Essex.
Wow.
I knew I wanted a big, beautiful house in the suburbs. So I ain't got time to party. I got to take these classes. And then not only was I a full-time student, I worked 4 to midnight. And then I was in the National Guard. Then I was into working out. So I had such a busy life, okay? So with all the things that I had to do, I had to stay focused. I graduated and went right into to get my master's degree because I knew in social work, if I want to make some money and have some influence, I had to have my master's degree. So I knew in undergrad, I got a plan for graduate school, okay? Because again, I had a mission I was going to accomplish. So by the time I reached 26, 27, I graduated and the military paid for all of my education. Now, was my sacrifice worth it? Absolutely it was. Absolutely it was. Because when I hear people talk about student loans, I don't know what that is. I don't know what it is. And while I was raising my daughter, I'm like, Anaya, you are going to make straight A's because we're not paying for college.
Okay.
We're not paying for college. My daughter got accepted to 25 schools. She had $1.2 million in scholarship offers, and she chose Amherst, which is the second, is number 2 liberal arts college, $80,000 a year, full ride. She don't play at college because she wants to be a neurosurgeon. So you see, I had to role model what you do at 18 years old. I had a mission. And so that's Mr. Scott's story. Other people have different ways of walking their path. But for the ones who are like me, who's saying, you know what? I'm trying to get out the hood. I'm trying to live in a big house. I'm trying to drive a nice car. I'm trying to have 6-figure salaries. This is what we got to do. But also going back to balance. Now, was I just a straight nerd not doing? Absolutely not. I couldn't wait till I turned 21 so I could go to the Chick Ricks and the Click and the Cotton Club. I went in the 50-yard line. I was a stepper, okay? and then I pledged in college. So when I took that work cap at school and cap off, I knew how to get it on. And I needed that balance. So yes, I'm not, Mr. Scott is saying, know what your focus is, but yes, have balance. Go to LA Fitness, go to the gym a few times a week. Go and when this pandemic lets up, go and have fun with your friends and stuff. But always know what the number one priority in your life is, because you got to stay focused with that. But enjoy the ride just as well.
I love it. Thank you so much. That was awesome. You guys are just so phenomenal, hitting on all the key points and the key areas and that the students need to hear. And I love how you guys are giving even extra insight to sharing your personal journey, because that's how we learn. That's how our students learn, by reaching back and teaching them through not just reading it in a book, but through our experiences. So now, guys, I want to talk about something that's very serious that happens on college campuses, whether it's an HBCU or PWI. And I noticed when I started doing expos and going to schools talking about this, talking about my book, more and more women were coming up to me talking about date rape. Date rape. Oh, it's on our campus. Can you come and speak to our campus? Oh, my friend, the other day, there was a case in Texas. I can't think of the young man's name. I had it written down, but the young lady was at a party and she was taken advantage of, and the judge only gave the young man 6 months probation. And everyone was in an uproar because of that. I think he attended Stanford University because he raped the young lady. And so, guys, what would you tell, first of all, did you hear about it, anything like this on your campus? And we're going to talk about following your instinct, protecting yourself, your voice, because God always tells us, you get that voice to say, don't do it, don't go. And you have to follow that in order to protect yourself. And 9 times out of 10, when we don't follow that, then we're like, guys, I should have followed my first mind. We generally say that. And this happens in a grocery store. And I talk about this in my book, College Survival Kit for Girls. How, you know how when you're in line at the grocery store and you're like, okay, this line is going to move faster. But then you look at another line, oh no, let me get over there. They're going to move faster. And then they say, price check. And the line you just moved, you're like, I don't believe this. Now you're looking at everyone who leaves the store in the first line you were in. You said, I should have followed my first mind and stayed in that line. So following your first instinct, guys. So let's touch on date rape. And I want to start with Kareem Ali on this one. Did you hear about it at JSU or in Colorado? What would you tell the young ladies and the young men too, because it happened to men as well? How would you protect yourselves? I'm going to say this, share a story with a young man who, a young woman got a hold of him on a college campus. He was so embarrassed he left school. So it does happen to both sexes, male and female. So go ahead, Mr. Ali, can you start us off on?
It's serious. It's very serious because, unfortunately, when, we're at them ages where we're free, a lot of things is going on and you're free now. So you don't have supervision, you don't have parents. I went to a school, our dorms was not co-ed. From what I understand, and now a lot of the colleges are co-ed, so, but nevertheless, when you got drugs and alcohol and sex involved, a lot of things go down. So I've seen situations where people took advantage of the people that have been drinking. One thing I think in the last time we did this things, I talked about it. The women need to watch what they smoke, because they can put stuff on the weed, on the marijuana, acid, pills. What they drink, they put eye drops in the drinks. It's like date rape drug, like a Quaalude or something. It's like it can knock you out. And I've seen situations where it's just bad situations where you caught up and you partying and you're away from home and you could be somewhere and get raped, and it's a bad situation. I've seen situations where it was the other way around, where one of my roommates got drunk. He didn't drink at all, hardly, and he got drunk one night. Some girl wanted to see him. It wasn't his girlfriend, and she raped him. Wouldn't his real girlfriend really didn't believe him, but that was like 30 years ago. And to this day, I know she raped him because he didn't drink. And she just literally took advantage of him because he was drunk laying in his bed. So you have to be very careful. You got to be very careful. You have to watch your drinks because, they're going to drink, they're going to smoke, but you got to watch the people you're around. And it's a lot of these, I hate to say men, but a lot of men, it's a lot of predators. And that's what they do. Unfortunately, you can't look at somebody and say he's nice looking, handsome guy. He's not a rapist. That's not true. Because it can come in any shape, form, fashion. He could be the finest man in the world. He could be a rapist. And you could say, well, he don't need to rape nobody, but you don't know his childhood. You don't know what he's been through. So you don't know what he's going to do. So you cannot be vulnerable and just be going places with people that you don't know. And, I tell my daughters the same thing, you can't just go anywhere with somebody because you met them on Snapchat. You don't really know these people. And it's very serious, it's very serious. And with the alcohol and drugs and stuff that's in these parties and everything, you just have to be aware. Maybe bring your girlfriend with you when you go somewhere, have a male friend, talk to somebody, because that molestation, that rape stuff, it can ruin a person's life. I'm not saying it's gonna ruin a person's life forever, but it's really bad. And I'm not saying it's bad on campus, because it's not everybody's doing that kind of stuff. But you have to be very careful and do not be green and naive to go out and go all to the fraternity party, sorority party, and be naive to anything. You just have to be very careful. That's all I'm saying. Just keep your eyes open and use your smarts.
We're gonna, and Kareem, thank you for that. We're gonna get into that when you say meeting people on Snapchat. We're gonna talk about that in safety. So thank you for that. What about date rape? Did you hear about it, or how would you tell a young lady or male to protect herself or himself? Tyler, we'll go to Tyler Garrett, Mary Muhammad, then we'll go to Dr. Davis, Mr. Roberts, and Jemiah, Kim Washington, and Scott.
So as far as protecting yourself when it comes to date rape, one, I want to send a message out to the fellas to please protect our women. Always be on the lookout for our friends. Because if we don't look out for each other, then that's how we become susceptible to these things. And then when we're thinking about ourselves, always be vigilant. Don't go anywhere by yourself. Only go to places with people that you trust, especially if it's places that you haven't been to before, and make sure you stay around each other. That way you can keep watching out for each other. And then really where I want to send a message is back to the fellas again. In order to protect yourself, I view it as probably an oversimplification of there's two different type of rapists. There's one that's intentional and there's one that's unintentional, but it's still the same. You're still committing the same act. So the intentional ones, I mean, we all have that idea in our mind, but I want to talk about the unintentional ones where maybe this girl was, you guys were vibing or something like that, and then she doesn't seem to be in her right mind. At that point, you shouldn't be moving any further. Things should stop right there, because she's not in the right mindset to make decisions for herself. Or if it's the flip side, the man might not be in his right mindset to make decisions for himself. And so at that point, all bets are off. You need to back out of that situation, bid that person adieu, tell them, have a good night, and then try to touch base with them another time, because the next decisions that you make could really mess up your life for a very long time after that. And it might have been just a mistake on your part, but that was a decision that you made.
Thank you, Tyler. Very profound. Thank you. Ms. Muhammad?
Yeah, this is very deep. I would say the best defense against date rape is to not put yourself in a situation where you could potentially be raped. Try to avoid putting yourself in a position like everyone is saying, don't go off with people you don't know. Don't, if your friends like, come on, these guys are nice, let's go with, no, somebody has to be level-headed and think ahead of time that this is not a good decision. No, we're not doing that. Somebody has to be the wiser person of the group, and it may be you. You might have to be the one who is the cool head every time y'all go out. You might be the one who has to say, hey, we're not doing it, you're not going there. This goes back to choosing your friends wisely. You want to make good decisions on who your friends are. You want to think about what type of person do you want to be around? Do you want to, because we all had this friend who goes to the party and gets drunk and wasted. And every time y'all go, it's the same thing. You gotta drag this person home because they too toe down to make decisions for themselves. And so now you gotta think, okay, now is this the type of person that I want to be around? Is this the type of friend that I want to have? Because she not only is she ruining the fun for you, she's making you be responsible for her. So now you gotta make sure that every time y'all go to the party, you gotta make sure she's okay. So that's one thing you have to think about. Now, as far as when you're getting ready to go out to a party, so the rule is you going out to the party, you're going out with your girls, okay? You guys have to discuss ahead of time. You already have to know the ground rules for this situation. We don't leave unless all of us leave. Nobody goes off by themselves. This is a pact you make with each other. So when we go to this fraternity party or whatever this party is, we all go together and we all go home together. All right. Then you have to decide, okay, if we're driving, if we have to drive to the party, who's the person that's going to stay, that's not going to get intoxicated? You have to be the one that's going to drive us all back home and get us back safely. So somebody got to be the one to say, okay, well, I'm not going to drink tonight. I'm going to be the one to make. So these are decisions you have to make ahead of those times. So you're avoiding this situation. And of course, at the party, the rule of thumb is at the party, you don't drink anything that somebody gave you. Like somebody say, here, drink this. No, I'm not drinking that. Unless you see it for yourself, where it came from, where they just pretty much just opened the bottle and the thing has been sealed, or whatever the case may be, you might not want to drink that. So what we kind of used to do is, when we went to a party, we wanted to have fun, we would drink before we went to the party. That way we already knew that where the liquor came from. We already knew that it was safe or whatever. And if we wanted to smoke or whatever the case may be, we did it before we went to the party from our own, where we felt like it was safe to do it in that particular situation. So the basic thing that I'm trying to say is you got to be wise in all the decisions that you make. You can't just go willy-nilly. Oh, it's a party, let's go. No, you got to think it through. You got to be strategic in how you're going to do this. And you got to go with people that you trust. You have to have some girls that, or a guy, or whoever the case may be, that's going to be stick to the plan. Because if they disappear and something happens to them, then you're held accountable, because you said we all going to this party together. We all going back to this party together. So we would go to the party and it'd be a group of us and we'd be looking, where's so-and-so at? She's missing, and we had to go and find her and to bring her back, hey, what are you doing? She might have had something to drink or too much to drink or whatever the case may be. So it's about being responsible. Don't go off with people that you don't know. Don't put yourself in that situation where you could potentially be attacked or raped by someone, because there are people who that's their plan. You got situations where, especially when it used to be, I don't know how it is now, but when fraternities were crossing a line, when they're lying, they had neophytes and they were new, and their plan was to get a girl, and they would pretty much they were going to run a train on her. It'd be a whole line of them. It could be 5, 6, 7 of them, and that's what their plan was, to find a young lady, potentially a freshman or somebody who didn't know any better, get her in a situation, and then their plan was to attack her. And so if you know, if you're naive, if you're out there at a party by yourself, you're open, it's open season. Okay. We see this girl, she looking at us, you know, they looking kind of good. They cute. They got on their colors and they just crossed or whatever. And she thinking that's a safe bet. She gonna try to talk to one of them, but their plan is for all of them, you know? So you have to be wise in the decisions, you know, that you make. And I pray that, you know, nothing ever happens. I didn't have a situation where that happened to me. And I can't recall anyone telling me that happened to them situation, but I'm telling you what we use, what ideas. And the final thing is, which is the most important, guys, is you have to pray. You got to have a relationship with your creator. We have to cover ourselves in the blood every time we put ourselves in a situation, because we need to be protected. Sometimes it's divine. Sometimes it's a divine thing to say, oh, that's not, don't do that. Don't go there. Don't do that. And it might be somebody else that say, call you up and be like, hey, where you going? Don't go. That's not a good idea. You know, things of that nature. So you got to use your Holy Spirit intuition also to keep yourself out of situations. I know plenty of times I was in situations where something told me, hey, that's not a good idea, or you need to get out of there. You need to get out of there right now. Go back to your dorm and let's go. Take whoever want to go with you and let's go. And that's what I did. You know, like I'm out of here, because this situation is not safe for me. I've been in situations like that. So that's key. You got to be in tune and know, you know, hey, when that little voice starts speaking to you, then you know, hey, this situation is not safe. This is not a good place for me to be. So let me get out of that situation. And then be wise and prepare yourself ahead of time when you plan on going to parties and things of that nature. So
Thank you.
I'm done.
Thank you for that, Ms. Muhammad. Who did I say was next? It was either Dr. Davis, Dr. Davis, and then Jemiah, and then did I say Ms. Washington? I think so. Okay, go ahead, Dr. Davis.
So I want to give a testimony that relates to the story that Miss Mary just told. I tried not to get choked up because I was preyed upon, and I found myself being victimized and in a situation where divine intervention was needed, and God gave it. And my friends, two of my friends' voices on an answering machine back then literally saved me. I was the girl in high school who was smart, who was athletic, but couldn't get a date. I asked 4 guys to go on prom with me and was turned down. So, you know, my sister was very pretty. All of my friends were pretty. Everybody liked everybody. Everybody just, oh, that's the smart Christian girl. But everybody wants to be liked. Let's be real. Everybody wants to know, every girl wants to know she's pretty. Somebody is interested in her at some point. And so I think, you know, guys could sense that from me. And one day I fell for the okie doke. I met a guy in River Forest in the Blockbuster. That was a long time ago. And he was the really tall, good looking, great looking guy who was literally on his way to being drafted to a major team here in Chicago. I won't mention the name. I didn't know that at the time. And we exchanged phone numbers, and I'm just so happy. And I can't wait to get back to the dorm to tell my 2 best friends, oh, I met this fine guy. Finally, somebody's paying attention to me. And we talked, and our one rule was, when we met a guy, the others had to meet him too, even if you met him and you were by yourself. And we all had to have the phone number and the address. Okay, is he in school? What school is he a student at? What's his phone number? What's his beeper number in case anything happens? And I didn't break that rule. I gave them that information, but what I didn't tell them was that I was going on a date. And I thought that we were going to a restaurant in the local area, and he began to drive out of the area. And he drove me to a place that I was not familiar with. And he drove me to Lake Forest College. I don't know anything about Lake Forest College. I'm from the west side of Chicago. I don't have a car. Okay, River Forest was far for me, and I'm from the west side. That's nowhere. And we get out there, and all these guys, it's Friday night, all these guys. Yeah, let's say his name was Tito. Tito, woo, Tito, yeah, Tito, you go boy, Tito. I don't really know what's going on. Just like, oh, okay, Tito's, got a date. We get into Tito's room. I'm like, okay, I'm not very comfortable with this. We're supposed to be going to a restaurant. This is a big guy. I'm also trying to play it safe. I'm trying to be smart. I don't want to piss him off either at this point. Let me be honest. I don't want to upset this person because I don't know where I am. I don't really know this person except from phone conversations and him telling me I'm pretty, telling me all the things I'd never heard from a male. My father died, my daddy died when I was 12, and my biological father died 2 weeks before I went on prom. So talk about mental health. I probably should have had some counseling. Thank God for prayer, right? So it saved me. And so he's doing what he's doing, and he's trying. He's tearing my clothes off. And the phone rings. And the answering machine, we hear these people, Sabrina, girl, you better pick up this phone. Tito, I'm telling you, I'm calling the police. If my friend doesn't answer this phone right now, I'm calling the police. I'm telling, boy, we're not playing with you. We're going to ride down up on you. You can hear them. They start talking ghetto, street, using foul language because no one answered the phone. And he looked at me. How did they get my number? I mean, he changed into this guy was about to go off, and they would not hang up. They kept talking. And he said, get your stuff, put your clothes on. I'm taking you back to your dorm room right now. I'm trying to escape. I don't even know if I call the police. I don't even know what to tell them where I am. It was God who provided divine intervention that night through my friends, who I was wise enough to at least keep that code, to give them the phone number because they had no address. And I learned my lesson that day. And I said, I would share this story with every young lady who's going to college, even if she's not, that I come across. This is very serious. I don't care who didn't like you. I don't care if you couldn't get a date. I don't care if nobody's told you you're pretty. Listen to some music. Go get around somebody. I don't care if it's women telling you you're pretty. That's validation enough. You don't need a man to tell you that. Because what that will do is put you in hot water, because you fall for the first good looking thing that's showing interest in you. So one, don't break the code. You make codes with your friends and make them with more than one, because somebody should know where you are and how to get in touch with you and how to get in touch with that guy that you just went off with. If no one can get in touch with him or you, that's a problem. You are not to go. Don't talk to that person, because a lot of times your friends can pick up on things that you cannot. You're blind at that point. I just saw Tall, Dark, and Handsome. They saw horns. You better answer this phone. I'm calling the police. We're riding down on you. So please, please, please remember that. Don't be desperate for anything. And when it comes to dating, the right guy will come along. Don't fall for the first thing that comes along. Please be wise. And like Miss Mary said, pray, right? And when you get those instincts, that voice that Phoenix talks about in this book here, that voice that you're hearing, that's the voice of God. Follow it. If you don't, you could end up in a situation that you may not rebound from, that could be very deadly or very dangerous.
That's wow. Maya Brown, I have no words. I have no powerful. Thank you.
Yeah, so the only thing, I feel like everybody touched on pretty much everything that I would have said, like making sure you make wise decisions, keeping people around you that won't, let you go off with somebody random, and making sure people know where you're at. And especially now in the age of technology, whenever I'm going somewhere, if I've never been there before, or if I'm with someone and I'm not familiar with them as much as I should be, I'll always make sure my friends have my location. They know exactly where I'm at. Or I tell my friends, oh, I'm going to be here and I should be home at this time. So if I'm not, call me, or do this or do that. And the only other thing that I could probably say, especially if it's something that you deal with on campus and something that you deal with at your school, make sure you know the right resources to go to and someone to speak to when you experience those things. Because one of the main reasons
That's
why
right.
it happens so often is because it doesn't get talked about and people don't know that it happens to other people. So people stay quiet. They're embarrassed. They're thinking, oh, why did this happen to me? And I don't know anybody that else this happened to. So who am I supposed to go to talk about it? I know that my school specifically, we have a Title IX organization, and they deal with things like sexual assault, domestic violence, and stuff like that. And those are the people on my campus that you can reach out to, that you can trust, and that you can talk to, even if you don't want to necessarily go to the police with your situation, but you can just get counseling. You can talk to them about the things that you experience, and having those resources and knowing who you can reach out to is just as important as being safe if something were to happen.
Thank you. Thank you. Who's next?
Mr. Roberts is next.
Mr. Roberts, and then Miss Washington, and it was Mr. Scott.
I like to say that one of the things that we find ourselves in with young people, I think, is a self-esteem issue. As Dr. Davis had mentioned, people, she didn't feel this, or people didn't give the attention and what have you. So it's a self-esteem issue. And Tyler mentioned that we as men have to be respectful of the women, and women have to be respectful of the men. Don't ever put yourself in a position, what we have in the Boy Scout troop and in the organizations that I work with my church, we always say travel in twos. And especially if you meet somebody with this new social medium, don't ever set yourself up to meet anyone in a private place. Always meet them in a public place. You're on a college campus, always have a friend with you, a buddy, so to speak, and be aware of what's going on. If you find yourself in a situation that you're uncomfortable, just say no and move on. Don't be the person who says, well, maybe he's not going to do this, or maybe she's not going to do that. No, get out of the environment. If you don't feel comfortable, because, I think as Ms. Washington said earlier, women have that intuition and that gut feeling, and men do too, but men never use theirs as much as the women do. If you're in a situation where the conversation is leading to something that you didn't want it to lead to, just say, well, thank you very much. I'll see you later. We'll talk later, and just move on. Because you put yourself in a situation where you could be taken advantage of, and then you have no recourse if you didn't tell somebody where you were or what you were doing. Crystal mentioned the case, the Stanford case. Well, I just read something about 2 weeks ago, and I think this is in Tennessee, where the young man and the young woman, he gave her, they were friends. He gave her, or was giving her a ride home, and she said, well, why don't we just go to your house rather than go, I don't feel like going home right now. Let's go to your house. They went to the house. They both got inebriated from drinking. And then he had sex with her, but because she was late getting back to where she wanted to, she said it was rape. There was date rape, and the judge threw it out. The judge said that the situation was not one where he gave her alcohol with the intent of doing anything. They were friends, and they both knew what they were doing. Just because she was in the position to say the consent to say yes or no, and that case is coming up again because the people are sort of appealing the decision, because they're saying it is considered date rape. But the judge said no, it wasn't, because they were both consensual adults in a house. They were friends, and they decided to get drunk, and they had a feeling for each other, but she said it was rape. And so you have the courts ruling against you in some instances. You have to make sure that you don't put yourself in an environment where you're disrespected, and then just move on. I'd like to just tell the students, move on. Because if you're not comfortable, just say no and move on. Just don't don't harbor yourself there thinking that this is going to make you look better or you are accepted or whatever. Just move on. That's all I like to say.
Thank
Mr.
you,
Roberts,
Mr. Roberts. Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Ms. Washington, you're next.
Mr. Roberts, Dr. Davis, Tyler, and Mary, and I mean, you guys hit you nailed everything. Mr. Garrett, I like the way you say that the men got to protect the women. Women got to protect the men. We all got stories to tell. We all have hormones. At that age, hormones are popping everywhere, but that don't mean we want to explore those hormones. So how do we work with those hormones and still have integrity and have respect and don't cross the line? That's what we have. It's bad enough lines are being crossed on us anyway. So we don't need to add it to our people and cross the lines. And Dr. Davis, I know your story. I'm in your story. I understand. And for you sharing your story, other people should tell their stories. They don't want to tell them because they're ashamed, because they're scared of being judged. But if you true to yourself and don't worry about what other people think, then tell your story, because your story is going to help the next person. And I'm sure people, if they're not listening, when they leave here, they're going to tell their story. That's why I tell my stories. I tell my stories because I don't want nobody to go through. Like I said, 15 steps, you're going to take back. Things happen to me, I'm gonna tell y'all, okay? I may look crazy telling y'all, but at the end of the day, when you walk into those waters, you're gonna walk into with sense, saying, "Oh my God, I heard that story. Oh, this is what I need to do. Oh, I need to call this person. I need to call that person." You know, in groups. I can't say it no more. Y'all said it elegantly, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
And bless you, Dr. Davis.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Washington. Where's Mr. Scott? Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
Dr. Davis, thank you for sharing that story. As a father of a beautiful 18-year-old college freshman, I needed to hear that all over again. And as a clinician who's been working with abused kids, again, with DCFS for 28 years, I've heard these stories multiple times. I want to address the young people right now, because I hope this subject matter is really impactful for you. Because, and again, my words are slow coming to me because, again, I'm a daddy of a daughter. And I love my Black girls and who don't feel protected by us men anymore. And I want you to know that us men will protect you. You know, I don't want you to ever think that that is never our goal, is to protect our women. Prior to my daughter going away to college, even when my daughter was younger, I understood my daughter was an only child and didn't have any big brothers, you know, and I got divorced when my daughter was 10 years old, and I became overly protective dad, because I know what happens, and I've seen it happen so many times, that when men tend to divorce, we divorce our kids and we forget we have the responsibility. So I became that savage tiger dad, or whatever the title is, because I knew I had to protect my baby. I work for DCFS, so I see unprotected kids every day I go to work. So how wouldn't I protect mine? And I've been called names by people because I'm protective of my daughter, but it's okay. But it's okay. Young ladies, just like the testimony that Dr. Davis gave you, a lot of you have that same scenario. My daughter, though she was homecoming queen, though she's 5'9", hair down to the middle of her back, gorgeous, in her head, she's that ugly duckling nerd. You know, I remember when she went to campus this last semester, she was like, Daddy, why do because she goes to a PWI, she said, Daddy, all the Black boys want to date white girls. And I said, Naya, let them. Let them. Because again, you're on an agenda. You on a mission. And my daughter said something very impactful. She was like, Daddy, I was just giving you my observation. Because be clear, I had a daddy who told me that he loved me every day. So I'm not seeking and searching for male attention like that. And when it's time, it's going to be time. So ladies, let me pass, young ladies especially, I want to pass that message on to you. So if you need a man to tell you he loves you right now, Dr. Scott loves you. All the men on this panel love you. But you got to love yourself. And these boys have agendas. The world tells us, guys, get. Go hunt. So ladies, when you understand that you become the prey. So you got to be careful. You've been given the blueprint from different people on this panel. Be mindful when you go on. Let me tell you, when my daughter was 8th grade, I got this feature on my cell phone called Life 360. On that app, I can pinpoint where the block she's on. My daughter asked me when she was getting ready to go away to college, Daddy, are you gonna take me off the 360 thing? I said, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm sending you money every month. You're gonna be on that app. And she was like, I get it, Daddy. I was just asking. I said, well, you shouldn't have asked. Not with me as your daddy. Because I would be in Massachusetts killing everybody. So don't ever ask me that again. You're gonna be 50 and I'm gonna have you on this app. Because you all I got. I lose you, I lose me. So ladies, I want the young ladies pay attention. We are telling you this for a reason. Stop seeking this. I want to be with Future. I want to be with on Offset. I want this guy to give me this and I want this guy to give me that. Love you and the love will come. I don't know where that came from, folks. I don't know where that came from, but I just had to give it to you. I love
Won't he do it? Won't he do it?
I love it. I love it. Mr. Scott, very, very powerful, guys. Were you going to say something, Dr. Davis? Were you going to say? Oh, yeah. Amen. Say amen. Yeah, guys, you guys hit on it, and for you to say that, Mr. Scott, you telling the young ladies you love them, and Tyler protecting the women, and those are some of the things I talk about in the book for the guys. You have to protect us. Protect us. You see something going on, say something, do something. Don't just sit back and watch it happen. Because you're setting yourself up for failure. You're setting yourself up for rape, going to prison, losing your life, your career. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Think about if you had a sister. How would you feel if that happened to your sister, your mother, your daughter? Then things change. You think differently. So ladies, protect yourselves like they say. Go within. Find that love. Shout out to God. Find that love within and that self-confidence within, not from other people, not from things. Things come and go. People come and go. Love you and be careful of your whereabouts. Be careful who you go out with. And that's going to lead into safety, guys. I know we're running behind schedule, but that's okay. Safety, meeting people on Snapchat, Instagram, or on campus late at night, walking to your car. Safety. We have to be very vigilant. We have to be careful. The guys too. I just read a story about it was one of the guys. He played for I can't think of the name of the college. The young man, but he got set up. So meeting a young lady on social media, but it was a setup. She already knew about this guy on campus who had a lot of money. So she set him up to get robbed. So we have to be very, very careful about that. So let's talk about safety on campuses. Go ahead, Mrs. Scott. Safety on campuses, going to your car, meeting these people online and thinking it's okay because I saw him, just like you said, he cute and we vibing online. No. Go ahead, Mrs. Scott.
Okay, personal testimony. Again, I've been single for 8 years, and though I'm 51 and about 50 pounds heavier than I want to be, I'm still cold enough to find young women to date on my own. I don't have to go on a computer to find a woman. Okay? I'll find one in the grocery store, the laundromat, the library. I don't know, something. Because online, I could be Morris Chestnut. I could be Morris. Let me show you something. Okay, see my picture? Okay, so I'm that guy. But this is me in real life. I can make myself whoever I want to be online. And a lot of men do. I had a friend, he was on 5 dating groups, 5 of them. And his plan was, I don't want to date a woman in Chicago. What he did was he found women on these 5 different dating sites who lived out of town. So these women would pay for him to come to Atlanta, to come to New York, to come to Virginia, to spend the weekend with him. He did this on purpose, and he's a good-looking guy, and he understood, I know there's a lot of desperate women out here who would pay to have me come and keep them company. Wow. And I was like, wow, so this is a business. People really think like this, but I'm glad he told me this because, again, as a man who's raising a daughter, I need to know what the wolves are out here doing. Right. Let me share this with you. I got divorced 10 years ago. The next guy my ex-wife dated was a guy she met on blackpeoplemeet.com. Okay? Right. So she ended up, and I'm telling my story because I want it to be impactful. My ex-wife moved this man in, and on the first day, he started trying to groom my daughter. He got mad at her and threw my daughter's food away at a restaurant. He called my daughter out her name. So the wonderful thing about me being a social worker, I taught Anaya as a little girl, anytime somebody makes you feel weird, man or woman, let daddy know. I took that sucker to court and got an order of protection that he could not be around my daughter until my daughter turned 18 years old. And my daughter was 10 years old at the time. My ex-wife went to court and said, because the judge said, Miss Woman, I'm going to give your ex-husband, me, full custody of your daughter unless you move the boyfriend out. Guess what my ex-wife did, guys? And my ex-wife has 2 master's degrees from University of Chicago. She said, Your Honor, why should I choose my man over my daughter? Why can't I have both? I married a highly educated Black woman who chose a man off of blackpeoplemeet.com. Well, I didn't care no more because as long as I had custody of my daughter and that she couldn't be around this possible perpetrator. 5 years later, my ex-wife caught that F-boy that she met off the internet in her house with another woman that he met offline. Now, I'm so clear that y'all smart enough to understand my message I'm giving you right now. Now, some of you will say, well, Mr. Scott, that can happen if I met him at the grocery store. Sure could, but I'm giving you my testimony. I'm giving you my testimony. We got to be careful. The wolves are out here, and social media and this computer and these cell phones are the new weapons. You better equip yourself, men and women. That's my testimony. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Khalid. Yes, Khalid Scott. Jamaya Brown, being on college campus, safety. Walking around college campuses, meeting people online. What's your take?
Well, so one, social media is definitely something that my generation almost feels like they can't live without. And I know how easy it is to like see someone that goes to your campus, but you don't really necessarily know them, but you know them off social media and think, oh, I can meet up with this person or I can do this. And I just think you never really know anybody's intentions. You should always, always be safe in these type of situations because you never know what somebody might have on the back of their mind. Just this recently, this spring break, a student that used to go to my school, he had got caught with some other person that he went to Miami on spring break with some friend, and he ended up drugging and sexually assaulting some girl who was like native of Miami, and she ended up losing her life later that night. And they don't know if it was from an overdose of the drugs that they gave her or what it was. And now they are facing, the charges in Florida, Miami, in a hotel. And when it came back to my school that the person who had did this, who used to go to my school, everybody on social media was like, oh, I didn't think that this person was capable of doing this. I didn't think that they was this type of person. I've been with this person before and I've hung out with this person before. I didn't get that vibe from him. And you just never know what type of person or what they could be influenced by, even when they're somewhere else. This person was in Miami. You don't know what type of drugs they were doing. You don't know what person they were around that could have influenced them to do that to that young lady. And you just have to always know exactly, like, you have to feel the energy. You have to be aware of the things that happen. And me, I grew up with brothers. I only have brothers. I'm the only girl, have an older brother and a younger brother. So I'm almost babied in my family. And they told me, like, listen, you have to be on it. You have to be aware. And I'm a more lonely person. Like, I have friends, but I do a lot of things myself. I have my own car. I'll go to the store randomly by myself. I'll go out to eat randomly by myself. And when you're a woman and you're by yourself, you have to always, always, always stay vigilant because there is going to be someone that's going to try to take advantage of you, especially if you see them off social media. People can be anybody these days on social media, just like the last person said. So you have to always make sure you know exactly who you're talking to. You have to make sure whenever you do anything, you staying safe and you have people that you know can come to your rescue if anything were to happen. Just like I said earlier when we were talking about date rape and everything. Whenever I go somewhere new, I send my best friend my location. She has my location from when I leave out to go to where I'm going to when I can't come home. And if I don't come home at a reasonable time, she's calling my phone like, hey, where are you? What are you doing? What's your location? What's your status? When should I expect you to be home? And having that type of communication will save you from getting in situations and being safe on campus and being able to go out and have fun and explore without having to wake up the next day wondering, how did I get home? What happened? Who was I with? And stuff like that.
Yes. Thank you, Jamaya. I always think about the young lady that it was on the news in Chicago, the young lady at the Champagne from China. I remember they found her body. Come to find out, they charged the guy that knew of her in the dorm. You guys know the case that I'm speaking about, young lady in China, from China, who went to Urbana. And I always think about that. Maybe she got in the car with this guy and she probably saw him on campus and assumed he's safe because I've seen him before. So you can't do that. I just look back on the things that I did. I remember me and my bestie doing that. Okay, well, he seemed safe. We saw him on campus and getting in the car. No, you don't do that. Anything could have happened to us. You have to be very careful. You don't just jump in the car or just go willy-nilly with someone that you don't know. You have to be very, very vigilant walking on campus at night. I was speaking to my niece and she was telling me that UW, she went, they had safety patrol. So, and she worked the safety patrol where when you were studying late at night or you needed a walk to your car or a walk across campus, you called them and they came and they walked you. So, I mean, we all think that college campuses are safe and for the most part, they are safe. But just think, you're still in the real world. so you have to be careful about where you are and what you are doing. I want to go to Tyler because I know we're running behind schedule. I want to go to Tyler on safety, and I want to go to Mr. Roberts on safety.
So on safety, I mean, I think we've kind of touched on this already, but the only 2 cents I can add is, just staying vigilant, staying aware, thinking ahead of what you're going to get into, having a plan and sticking to that plan, try not to deviate. Because once we start getting into those areas where we're not being intentional about what we're doing, that's where we tend to slip up or mess up or, get into situations that we don't necessarily know how to get out of. So always think about what's coming next. What is your plan? How can you stick to that plan, and what's going to happen? Or what are the things that you should expect when making that plan and going forth with whatever you're planning on doing?
Thank you. Thank you, Tyler. Mr. Roberts and then Mr. Ali.
What I'd say pretty much have been said to the extent that I know at Prairie View right now, safety is a big issue for Prairie View. And they have these blue lights around on campus now where you can call into the police department if you were studying late or you're coming out of a building by yourself. We encourage the students to always have a buddy, as I said earlier, and let someone know about your whereabouts at all the time. Never put yourself in, like, if you're coming from one building and you got to go across campus, call the police department. That's what they're there for, to help you. Don't get into cars with people that you don't know. Somebody stopped to give you a ride. You going somewhere and they stop to give you a ride. You just say, thank you very much. And, oh, that's okay. I don't need a ride, and move on. Just as we said earlier, you have to be vigilant of your surroundings. You be careful of the people who you associate with, because they can turn on you in a minute. You wouldn't even know that with that Heckle and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde personality comes out sometimes. So you have to be careful, always concerned about your surroundings. We were talking about it yesterday about the old people who are being preyed on in the senior citizens community. And so I said to them, that happened in the young folks community too. Young people get in their cars and they go to stores and don't pay attention to their surroundings. When they come back to their car, somebody may be hiding on the other side. They don't know that person is on the other side. So always have your keys ready to get into your car. And now with the technology, you can press a button, and it'll open up before you get there. You have the button now, you can even start your car before you get to it.
Depends on what kind of year your car is.
Well, I'll say this. Most of the young folk today got those kind of cars.
Right.
All people like me still got to find the key to fit the door, because the door key don't fit the ignition. So you have to be careful, and always, be caution on the right side. Always be cautionary. And I can overemphasize the fact that, like I said, always have a team person with you. Always have a buddy. Never travel by yourself. It doesn't make any sense. I know we all want to be loners or whatever, but sometimes you need someone who can be aware of where you are, what's going on, and check up on your friends always.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Real quick, is Ariana Walker, Dr. Forte, Mark Reynolds, are you guys on? I see you guys have your video off. Okay, Ariana is here. Dr. Forte. Mark is there. Okay, hey Mark. And so what we're gonna do, guys, we're gonna double back to safety. I haven't forgot about you, Kareem, Ms. Washington, and Ms. Muhammad, regarding safety. We want to double back. Wait a minute. Wait. Khalid changed his whole gear. Okay, so he's really rapping. We're going to get into pledging, joining an organ, pledging right now. The Divine Nine, and we're going to talk about let the sororities and the fraternities represent, and talk about their organization, why they joined, what they look for in members of people who might want to pledge their organization. So let's start it off with my girl, Chef La. La Cherie in the house. Z5B.
Hey, Z5B. Yes, I love my sorority. Yes, Z5 soror. Hi everybody. I just want to get on here to talk about Zeta Phi Beta. That's our organization, Z5B. So you know what? So I love all the sororities. There's so many sororities that you guys can choose from, but you have to choose the best one for you. And so sometimes you go and before you even get to the campus, you hear about all these organizations, or your aunt did this, or your cousin is a part of this one, and you're like, okay, that's all I know. I just know about being a Delta. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna be a Delta, and I'm gonna go see what they're about, and I'm gonna go be a Delta, or I'm gonna go be, just whatever. And so you get there and it's like, you go and you meet the ladies and you like, okay, Delta. Let me just see more about what you're doing. Do you vibe with me, or just what have you? But they may not be a fit for you and your personality and what you like or what you're looking for. So the reality is you have to get to the campus and decide by going and visiting the different organizations, seeing what they're about, seeing what they have to offer, and seeing even just, do you vibe with their personality, who they are, as an organization. So that was my thing. And so when I got there, I just knew about Delta because I had so many in my family. And so that's what I wanted to be. But when I got there, I went and I had on some kind of outfit, and they were like, what's that you got on? I was like, just what I wore. I woke up to, we don't dress like that. And it was like, okay. So that was the thing. I couldn't be myself. I was like, okay, well, we had this image, or we wanted to look like, and that's fine, because that's what you guys uphold, and that's for you. But for me, when I met the Zetas that were on my yard, I'm from NIU, Eta Delta chapter. We actually turned 50 this year, so I'm excited about that. So yeah, when I met them, oh my God, they were so down to earth. It was like, okay, and that's me. My personality is bubbly. I'm free. And, and when I met them, that's what they gave to me. And so they were welcoming. They were loving. And I love that. I wasn't expected to act a certain way, to be a certain way. I could simply be myself. Ding, ding, ding. I wanted that. That's what I wanted. And then as I began to research them and go to informationals, because that's what you want to do, go and see what they have to offer. I just loved everything they were doing in the community, all of the community conscious action required things that they were doing as an organization. I wanted that. I wanted to help out this group. I wanted to be a part of volunteering for that. I wanted to go and serve food. I wanted that. I wanted to know that that's what you were doing, because that's something that I wanted to do too. So when I found out they was committed to the community and just doing so much stuff, I was drawn in. And so, yes, they accepted me for who I was. And most importantly, they had a sisterhood. I wanted sisterhood, and sisterhood was important to me. I didn't have any sisters growing up. I wanted these women that I can connect with, that I could be myself with. And then, it was just rewarding. It was rewarding to find that I can bond with women who had the same ideas and goals and things like that. So even pledging. So what you want to do when you want to go look for an organization, like I said, they have informationals and things like that. That's what you need to do. You need to go out and you need to do your research, and you need to find the best one that works for you. And so I gained that sisterhood once. It's one of the best decisions that I could have ever made. When I say these girls got my back, they got my back. When I'm down, they lift me up. When I need something, they're there for me. And so it definitely was one of the best decisions that I made. They helped me to be a better version of myself. And even still, even within organizations, when you're out there in the world, you're looking for a job, or you just need some kind of assistance, you have this sisterhood. And in my case, I have a brotherhood because we're connected to Phi Beta Sigma constitutionally. We are Phi Beta Sigma, go frat. And so I have that brotherhood as well. So like it's a group in our one of our groups, and it's like, oh, so-and-so soror is stuck on the side of the road. Oh, guess what? She won't be stuck on the side of the road for long, because here we have, our frat brothers or our sorors to say, hey, do you know? And so it's just, it lets me have a sense of sisterhood and just belonging and enjoying the people that I'm connected to as far as the organization is concerned. So it's really, and the intake process is good. You know, like I said, you go to the informational, you do your pledging, and you know, it's different for every organization what that looks like. And so then, you know, you have a ceremony and a neophyte party, if that's, you know, what they do on campus. And it can be arranged from a number of members that come in at once. It was 6 of us on my line, and I was the anchor. And some people, you may have 46, you know, depending on what college or what school you go to. It's really just, you know, dependent on that. Okay, so I think pledging is a great thing. It has so many benefits, and it's not for everybody, but if that's something that you are looking into, I think you should pick the best fraternity or sorority that's good for you. Not what your mom and them did, your auntie, your uncle, your cousin. Do what's good for you. So that's it. Say bye.
Thank you. And guys, a shameless plug. If you're looking for a caterer, someone to cater any event, Chef La, I just have to say this. I helped her at an event, and so I have to be transparent. I was very upset that people were coming back seconds and thirds, because I was like, that means I'm not going to get any food to take home, because I wanted food to take home to eat. It was so good.
Thank you.
Chef
La cooks on any platform. Chef La cooks. So if you guys need
Chef La cooks. So
yes,
guys, you need a chef. Reach out to Chef La.
Thank you so much, Phoenix, for allowing me to be a part of this. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you for being a part.
To all of my NPHC, I love you guys.
Thank you. And guys, Kareem Ali had to leave too. He's on set today, so he'll be filming. So he had to go ahead and leave.
And I have another Zoom meeting, so I'm going to get off, but it was a pleasure. All right.
Thank you so much.
Have a good one. Thank you.
Thank you. Coming up next, we have my girl in the pink and green, Ariana Walker, representing AKA. What?
Hi, everyone. As Phoenix said, my name is Ariana Walker, and I am representing the first and the finest sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. So where do I start? I'm kind of the same as Miss LaSharay. The only difference is, there are a lot of AKAs in my family, and I decided to go that route. My mom is an AKA, so I would always go to, events with her when I was little. I was in their mentoring program, Teen Esteem. So I saw early on what Alpha Kappa Alpha was about. My mom joined when I was like 4. So from 4 up, I saw, the AKAs, and I knew that that's what I wanted to be. So, the same thing with the previous speaker also. When I got to school, we didn't have SG Rose. The Zetas were suspended. And actually the AKAs were suspended too, which is crazy. But the Deltas weren't very welcoming at my school. So, I knew AK was for me. As she was also saying, if you're thinking about, joining an organization, make sure that you do your research, ahead of time. You can always find general information on any of the organization's websites. The year that they're founded, their requirements, what are their GPA requirements, making sure that you keep up with your GPA so that you can pledge if you plan on doing so. Or go through membership intake process. But making sure that you meet all of the community service requirements. You can say, yeah, I want to pledge, but you need to make sure that you're on your stuff before you decide to do that. Let me think what else. I'm sorry. Also, like she was saying, make sure that the organization is for you. Attend their events. You don't want to just wake up one day and be like, hey, I want to do this. Like I said, attend their events. Make sure that what they're doing on campus is something that you're interested in, but also think about past campus. Because after you graduate, you being a member of that organization does not stop at all. So think about, what grad chapters you're going to join, and, if the grad chapter, what their events are looking like, what their services looking like all of that stuff. Wow, the last speaker really touched on a lot. But yeah, just making sure that, you manage your time wisely if you plan on pledging, because it takes a big chunk out of your schedule. Making sure your grades are good and all of that stuff. And I'll let the next speaker talk.
Thank you so much, Ariana. Thank you. Thank you. Next, coming up, we have my girl, Dr. Forte, representing Delta Sigma Theta. Woo!
Hello, and it's a pleasure to be here. And what I'd say is everybody who goes to college, and wants to be a part of an organization, you have to figure out, like the two other speakers said, what organization is right for you. I, of course, kind of figured out for my organization when I was a little girl, I was doing a paper, and back then they didn't have anything like the computers. So we had things like, Ebony, Jet, and the encyclopedias. And so when I was going through all these magazines and the different books and tablets and all that other stuff back then, the organization that I found to be the one that was like highlighted through all the magazines was this organization called Delta Sigma Theta. So I actually wrote a paper. I was in the 4th grade. And then I came to my parents and they were asking me what was I doing. I said I was writing a paper. My mom said, hold on a second. She went to the closet and she pulled out something that looked like this. It was a paddle and it said Delta Sigma Theta. So I said, oh my God, this is what I've been researching. And she said, well, your mother is a Delta. Now, did I pledge Delta because my mother was a Delta? No. Was I going to be able to just walk into a sorority that that even though I was a legacy, that I was going to have to go through all of the stuff, if not more? No, I didn't walk in. Did I find that the organization was the one that I felt was the best for me because it represented the things that I wanted? Civil rights, being the leader in being one of the top organizations that stood for women's rights as early as 1913. That's when we were established, 1913. Yes, one of the other organization was the first, but our founders, which there are 22 founders, several of them were the officers in that other organization, both at Howard University. And they decided to break away from the organization because they felt that they wanted to be to make a change and do other things that would promote us as Black people. And so that's what this organization, Delta Sigma Theta, has been about. It is a public service. It is a non-for-profit. I could go on and on about the leadership and other qualities, the first at almost everything that you can think of. Even with the part about having the first woman run for president of the United States, that was Shirley Chisholm. And so, so the foundation and the shoulders have been resting on the organization and the people. So yes, it's an organization that is a challenge to become a member of. At Spelman, where our daughter goes, there were over 600 applicants for the sorority, and there's only 45 that they selected to pledge and well, they want to change the word pledging, but membership intake. There's only about 45 that they accepted as membership intake. And so some of the things that I wanted to tell you guys, who this is recorded, thankfully, that there's things like the 5-point thrust. And what that means for Delta Sigma Theta is that it's economic development, educational development, international awareness and investment, physical and mental health, which are some of the things that we talked about today in this platform, political awareness and involvement, part of our symbol is fortitude. And fortitude is a female. Let me see, I don't have her on any of the things that I have on today, but fortitude stands for strength, courage, hope, wisdom, beauty, femininity, determination. The hands that are reached out forward represent a rescinding and a give and take of love, giving of oneself, pushing forward. Her thighs are strong and it represents strength, more forward to meet life's challenges. And so, with that, our colors are crimson and cream. Sometimes we say red and white, but the crimson and cream is symbolic. And as far as our founding, we were founded at Howard University, so therefore it's Alpha Chapter. And, our flowers are the African violet. And the African violet symbolizes two things. It symbolizes the bond between DST and Omega Psi Phi, which their colors are purple and gold. It represents modesty. And we've been trailblazers in all aspects of our society and beyond, from politics with things like Stacey Abrams, who you guys are very, very much aware of, to like medicine, Vivian Penn. I mean, I could go on, and I won't. We've been given a short amount of time, and this is over at 3, and it's already 3:05. So with that being said, bye, Delta Sigma Theta. Woo-hoo, 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 woo-hoo. And yes, I love my sorority. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Okay, we have I have to go with my alpha guy. My alpha guy, he came back. Police guy came back all suited up, booted up, in the black and gold. What? Next we have coming up, Police guy, Alpha Phi Alpha. Unmute yourself, Khalid. Unmute yourself.
All right, thank you for having us again, Phoenix. This was awesome. This was awesome. I want to introduce folks who may not know about A-Phi-A, Alpha Phi Alpha. We are the first African-American-based male fraternity established December 4th, 1906 at Cornell University, which is an Ivy League school in New York. Okay, we had 7 founding members, and we've been on the go ever since. And if someone asks me why A-Phi-A, for me, it's all about number one. I don't do anything in this life if I'm not trying to be number one at it. So for me, when I was in high school and we had a college fair, and Morehouse was at our college fair at CBS, and this was 1985, 86. I knew when I saw them, I knew I was going to Morehouse. So then I did my research and found out Dr. King went to Morehouse. And then as I was reading, they said that he belonged to this fraternity called Alpha Phi Alpha. And I'm like, well, what is that? Because the reality is, in my immediate family, remember, I was the first one to go to college. So I had to do all the research. And so I was like, okay. Dr. King, the most phenomenal Black man in the world, also who lived, and he belonged to the first African-American male fraternity who understood that if they wasn't going to accept us in their fraternities, we create our own. We create our own. And the pride I have for being A-Phi-A is because after us, 8 more phenomenal fraternities and sororities were created. The one thing I cannot stand about Divine Nine is how we talk about our own divisiveness. None of us is better than the other one because we give different people different things that they need. A-Phi-A was a wonderful marriage for me because I've always been a leader. And the men who I saw who were pledging the years before I pledged, and I did at Nu Delta at Chicago State University, 1993, April, they were leaders. They were the smart guys. And that was me. They were trailblazers. So as the previous speaker said, find the sorority or fraternity that talks to you, that conversates with you, that moves you. And then that's who you join. Now, I'm biased. My daughter, and I bought my daughter this when she was first born. I got this statue made of me, the alpha guy, holding my future AKA. So I'm biased. My daughter's gonna be an AKA, you know, she got to. But either one that she joins, it's all right, because we're all phenomenal. And that's what I want to get out there. We all are phenomenal because we have made a pledge to make our communities better, to do what we need for ourselves and for our communities. With Alpha Phi Alpha, our mission statement is this: we develop leaders, promote brotherhood and academic excellence while providing service and advocacy for our communities. Motto, first of all, servants for all, we shall transcend all. Colors, black and gold, symbol, Sphinx. And let me tell you, this fraternity has done a lot for me, you know, and the brotherhood has just been absolutely wonderful. And I've purposely made brotherhoods with every other fraternity under Divine Nine because we're all one. So when you're making your decisions, young people, again, go for who speaks to you. Go for who you know you will feel you will be the best representative of, okay? And again, it's a personal journey. Understand that. You pledging is very personal. And then get ready to do the work, because it's work, you know? Get ready, and they don't pledge per se no more, you know, but it's an intake process, you know, and be ready to be committed. And once you're in, you're forever a member, and just enjoy the wonderful ride that Divine Nine can take you on. And again, Phoenix, I got to get ready to go, but thank you for having me, and my fellow speakers, thank you for having me in your company. And let's do this again.
Here. Oh, yes. Oh, I'll talk to you, Khalid. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have coming up. I thought this guy was going to start stepping at one point. We have Mark Reynolds representing KA Psi, the Kappa guys. Woo-hoo. Hey, Mark.
Hey, how you doing? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. So, you know, growing up in Chicago, you see a lot of negativity at times. And the school that I went to, Brother Rice, we looked at ourselves as being great as African-American males. And I remember, you know, the two different dynamics of dealing with people outside of a business or professional type realm, which was what I considered high school to be for me, because it was about education, and dealing with people on the streets. And it was very different in the sense that African-American males on the streets were more so concerned about getting money and getting women. And I remember I went to an event. This was in my junior year of high school. It was a Kappa event for Thanksgiving. And I just happened to be at the event. I wasn't supposed to be, because it was a closed event. And they were doing a Thanksgiving celebration. I think it was their alumni chapter, and they were doing it with the undergraduates. And so they had their own step show that they put together. And me and my friend, we happened to be at this event, and they welcomed us in. And I remember it was so well put together. And the guys were so smooth and so just on it. And they weren't cursing. They weren't being disrespectful. And they were really, you know, showing so much respect to the women. And we had so much fun. I remember one of the women coming up to me. Now I'm just a junior in high school. And she said, so which one of these is your brother? And I was like, none of them. She said, but the way you've been interacting with them today, she said, you obviously not in college. She said, I figured that they let you in because somebody here was your brother. And I said, I guess that's why they let me in. I didn't have to pay or nothing. And I'm in here, I'm training with them and everything, but I didn't know I wasn't supposed to do that. And so I had a good time, and some of the guys that came over and everything, they talked with me, asked me what my future endeavors were and everything. And they said they didn't try to push anything on me. They would say, you might want to consider Kappa Alpha Psi, but, you know, learn what you can about the fraternity. So when I went back, I learned as much as I could. I looked up the information. This was really before the internet was really established. There was no such thing as Google, Yahoo, in any of those things. They didn't exist. So all of our information, I would have to reach out to somebody who would reach out to somebody who could get me in touch with someone who had information about Kappa Alpha Psi. And then they would give me information. So I had actually decided that this is something that I really wanted to give my full attention to, but I hadn't said, this is exactly what I'm going to do. I remember in my senior year, some of the guys came back from UIC. They had Pledge Beta chapter. And I remember the guy came over. He was like, he was all super excited. He had on his jacket. Everybody was, they were going crazy at my school at Brother Rice. And he was like, let me tell you, he said, it's not an easy route. He said, and you have to be sure that this is what you want for your life. He said, because you have to walk in this walk, no matter what you do till the end of time. He said, and you will be judged sometimes strictly on what it is expected of a Kappa man. There's an etiquette. He said, and it's not an easy etiquette to live up to. He said, there's a certain way in which we behave and the things that we do that people will know you just from the way that you are interacting with them. And I didn't take that to heart until after I had gotten to the organization. I was looking at somebody and I was like, his mannerisms, the way that he interacts and the stuff that he's doing, even on this show on TV, I'm almost 100% sure that this guy's a Kappa man. And I talked to one of my mentors. He was like, yeah, such and such is a Kappa man. He said, why would you think anything else? And it's funny to me because through the years, the different things and the people that I have interacted with, I mean, it's been easy. I haven't had to change myself up in the way that I interact with people, in the way that I interact with the world to try to fit into the different dynamics of being a member of Kappa Alpha Psi. So let me tell you a little bit. So what I learned was, and what was surprising, so they would say a frat so nice they had to name it twice. And I was like, okay, Ka Psi Phi Nu Pi. So Kappa Alpha Psi and Phi Nu Pi, meaning they had to name it twice, which is not true. The original name of the fraternity was Kappa Alpha Nu. It's founded at Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana. And this was in the 1900s, 1911. And before then, when they had the idea, there were only 10 African-Americans that were on the campus. Indiana University is the founding home of the Ku Klux Klan, and the amount of racism that these African-American males had to go through was just on a whole nother level. The school was implicit in the racism. They would not allow those African-American males to sit in classes with white people. They had to sit out in the hall to get the notes that they needed to get because they weren't allowed to go into the rooms with the white people to get information. They also were not allowed to walk into the bathrooms if a white person was going to go to that bathroom. So if they had been in that bathroom, they had to come out if a white person was coming in there to use the bathroom, which was very disrespectful. And they weren't allowed to join any of the white fraternities. That just was unheard of. And so because each one of these gentlemen was being sponsored by their communities because they couldn't afford to pay $15,000 for them to go to school in the 1900s, if that was the cost. The whole community had to come together to send them to school. So it wouldn't just be my family, which is the Reynolds family. It would be the Reynolds, the Jones, the Jacksons, the Williams. It would be the church over here, that church. So you had 4 different churches, 4 different communities, 50 different neighborhoods that were moving together to send this one Black person from that area to school. And I was like, that's a lot of pressure to have on yourself. And then to be at a school with 30,000 people and there's only 10 of you. And then the 10 of you do not get to sit in the classes with the white people. But yet they were extreme achievers. Our motto is achievement in every field of human endeavor. And I can see where some of this stuff was born from. So going back to a frat so nice, they had to name it twice. They decided that they were gonna start a fraternity. There were 10 men. Kappa, K is the 10th letter. It's our Alpha chapter, which is at Indiana University, and it's Nu, Kappa Alpha Nu, which was a symbol of the Negro. So we were Kappa Alpha Nu, K-A-N. And Kappa Alpha Nu was a fraternity that was built off of achievement and the endeavor to be as great as you possibly can be, which doesn't mean that we expect you to be the best or the greatest, whatever it is that you're doing. We're just saying, try to be the best that you can be at whatever it is that you're doing. 9 times out of 10, when you choose to be the best that you can be, for us, that meant we were going to be the best. Absolutely. And so when we endeavored to do these things, we had so many achievers, so many people that were just on a whole nother level. It was ridiculous. And the thing was, they went through so much racism. They were at one of our race track meets, and we had someone who was very good, and the Kappas were sitting together, and a white fraternity was in the area, and they said, "There's those Kappa Alpha niggas," and they hated the fact that they could take the Nu and turn the Nu into something that was so negative. So the fraternity decided that we were going to name it Kappa Alpha Psi, which represents the formation of the university. And our Psi has meaning in itself. So the thing that I loved about what they did was they turned something so negative into something that was so positive that, in a sense, because they became the #1 fraternity at the actual university, the university itself has to pay homage to Kappa Alpha Psi to this day, because we are the only founded fraternity at that university. And when we come in full strength for any of our events, it is known throughout the United States that Indiana University is for Kappa Alpha Psi. So I always thought that was really quite a twist, that now Indiana University is known for a Black fraternity, which is Kappa Alpha Psi, and that we changed the whole dynamics. We have 10 founders. 4 of our founders are physicians, a few attorneys, and we have other guys who end up becoming principals. Our main founder has schools that are named after him. Very, very very, very great achievers. And so that was always big for me. And I happened to pick a school where the members of Kappa Alpha Psi, at my university, we have a lot of physicians that came out. I think in my chapter, we probably have maybe almost 50 physicians to come who graduated from my chapter. And so we're known for having a lot of physicians. So a lot of achievers, doctors, lawyers, educators across the board. So I always was happy at the fact that this is something that really fit who I was as a person. I felt that African-American people are amazing in everything that we choose to do. And I felt that the the way that African Americans were being presented to the world was the wrong way for us to be presented. So I love what it is that Kappa Alpha Psi was showing in the things that we do.
Woo, woo.
Thank you.
Mark. And you really are an achiever. And Mr. Roberts is an alpha man as well.
All right,
Well,
thank you.
I would just like to, and this conference was just so phenomenal, guys. Powerful, powerful speakers, powerful, powerful information, just so wise. I'm just blown away. Just and I'm really glad we didn't do the breakout sessions, the breakout rooms, and I'm really glad that we didn't, because we needed to hear, the women need to hear from the men and the men from the women, you know, to get their different perspectives. When Tyler said protecting the women, that was just so powerful. When Dr. Davis told her story, that was just so powerful. And we all needed to hear that and feed off of each other and learn. I've learned just from this conference, you know, just listening to you guys with my knowledge that I have. So guys, I can't thank you guys enough for imparting, for taking time out of your busy schedule. You guys could have been doing anything else just to give knowledge back to the generation that's up under us. I can't thank you guys enough. You guys are just so phenomenal and powerful. And so I just want to give everyone a chance to close out. And I want to start with Ms. Washington, then we're going to go to Mr. Roberts, then we're going to go to Ms. Muhammad, then Jemiah Brown, and then we're going to close with Dr. Davis.
Welcome back. Well, guys, you know what? We can't get no better than the person who put on this program. We all as one, we as equal yokes, because if it wasn't for her thinking about putting these books together, because she started with one, I said, oh, Crystal, you got to do one for the men. I didn't think she listened. That let me know she did it from her heart, okay, with unconditional love. And then I didn't even know I was going to meet people such as yourselves on this panel, that you all gave your energy, yourself, being transparent, being humble, because our future leaders, they need to know that we're human and we can be vulnerable and we can be transparent. So when they're navigating in those waters to build on their careers and their endeavor, it's okay to make mistakes. It's what you do with those mistakes. It's how you learn from those mistakes. And you can't do it by yourself. You need help. It's what that song, need a little help. You ain't doing it alone. Okay? So thanks to Phoenix, you know, kudos to her, kudos to all you phenomenal speakers. And Dr. Davis, come on now. If those students don't listen to you, then they got a problem. Mary, I heard you. I finally get to meet you. And you know, my favorite boss here, you know, he whooped me and everything, but you know what? It's because of him. I'm riding that pony and I'm riding it right. And I don't care if I see somebody in the street, I gotta help them, because we gotta uplift the people, because we're giving them their flowers while they're still alive. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Delta, I love you. You know that. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Roberts.
Well, one, let me say thank you. Tina, you got Kim Washington got me calling you Phoenix. I'm sorry, I know Crystal. You know, Dr. Davis, when these folks make it big, they change their name. So I'm going to try to keep it real. It's going to be hard for me to say Phoenix, but I know Crystal. So I want to say thank you very much for the opportunity to be a part of this. I want to call it an earth-shattering experience, because the persons that you assembled here this evening came from varied backgrounds and experiences, and to know that we all end up on one accord, knowing that this is for the young people, to help the young people out there to understand what it is about life and to help shape their future. Because when I was growing up, they used to say, you know, you're the future, you represent the future. And now here I am saying to the people, you represent the future. So I want to thank you again for the opportunity. It's been a great
Thank you.
experience for me. You can call on me anytime. Whatever it is I can do to help you, I'm here to help you
Thank you,
and to
Mr.
help everybody. And Jamaya, I want to say to you, what they like to say, the sky is the limit for you. And I say, no, the sky ain't the limit. The world is your limit. Wherever you want to go, you can go and you will be somebody because you represent the smart thinking young person today that you can help in your environment. And so I wish you the best in your endeavors. And thank you to all of you for participating.
Thank you. Thank you. Who's next? Ms. Muhammad, then Jamaya Brown, then Dr. Davis. Mir?
Okay, I'm here. I just want to say, I've been knowing Crystal. I know her as Crystal, so I don't know her as Phoenix. But I've been knowing her since, man, I think we were 14 when we met, a long time ago.
In high
And
school.
yeah, and oops, I got stuff playing in the background. Sorry about that. And at that time, I remember her. We were talking about what we wanted to do, and she says, "I'm going to be an actress and I'm going to be a lawyer." And I was like, how are you going to do both of them? But okay. And she ended up being a lawyer, and then she became an actress. So I was like, well, okay, that's my girl. So I am so proud of her. And then she added producer and she added author to it. And I don't know if it's probably some more stuff that I don't know about yet, but I am so proud of her and her books. So you guys who's still on, make sure that you get those books, the College Survival Kit for girls and for guys, because they are phenomenal. And I want to thank all the panelists who are on. I got something from everybody. I got a couple of notes down here and stuff too. So, like I said, I've added to my character since I've been on been on the call. I've grown up a little bit more. So I thank you for that. And Jamaya, congratulations. And I'm so proud that you were here to represent the college student today. I learned a lot from you as well to get into the mind of a college student. So I appreciate you. So thank you guys for this opportunity.
Thank you. Jamaya. Maya? Uh-oh.
So the final out, I just want to thank you.
Thank you.
Hear me? Can y'all hear me?
Yes, hear you now.
Okay. So I just want to say thank you for inviting me and thank you for allowing me to be able to talk to the people who might be younger, who are listening and might be about to go to college or thinking about going to college, so I can kind of give them insight. Hopefully things will kind of get back to normal once this COVID stuff is over with and they can start to get the real, genuine college experience again. But I also want to thank all of the other panel speakers as well, who are older and well into their careers, who are able to give me still some advice and some wisdom just by listening to your stories and listening to the things you guys went through, because obviously I'm still in college and I'm still growing and I'm still, going through my education and my journey. So that was helpful overall. And I'm just glad to be a part of all this and being able to share the things that I've been through while also listening to everybody else and everything that you guys have been through as well. And it was helpful for not only me, but I know for the other people who are listening out there and anybody who's wondering and thinking if they should go to college, just make sure you guys look into the schools that you want to go to, whether or not it want to be a PWI, a HBCU, just look into what you think the school is giving you. And if it aligns with what you represent as a person and what you want to grow into, then that's just the most important thing. And I wish everybody else well on their journeys, future and current.
Thank you, Jamaya. Thank you. Dr. Davis.
All praise and honor to God for creating you. C. Phoenix Tyler, you are appreciated, you are loved, you are needed in this earth, you are making a huge impact. Thank you for bringing us all together. Thank you for saying yes to the Holy Spirit in writing, producing these two wonderful resources. I have read through them, and let me tell you, for all those parents who are still out there, read these books. You know, we talked about the title here, College Survival Kit. What does a kit mean? We have something that we can put something in. So we have began to build our toolbox and our kit. And we have learned from each panelist. I have learned, I have grown. If you're alive, you should still be growing. It doesn't matter what age you are. And you have proven to us, you have shown today, even with young Lady Jemiah, that we have to connect across generations. It still takes a village. And a part of that village is not only the older generation, but the younger generation as well, right? And so that we learn from one another. I call it the Joshua and Caleb effect. You had Joshua who led the children of Israel. He was the powerful one, the strong one, but he also needed Caleb, who was the wise one. Because you can be wise, you can be ever so strong in youth and power, but if you don't have that voice of wisdom, if you don't have those who know how to encourage you and who can help you to stay the course and get in your ear to give you those godly instructions, then it makes life a little bit harder. And I think you made life easier for all of those who are looking to go to college, who are dreaming about this experience. Like a lot of us did, we dreamt about going to college. A lot of us were first generation college students, and this really helped. And for those of you who are still listening, please be sure we can see that it's streaming live on YouTube. Share this, please, because there's so many people who need this information, students, parents, administrators, etc. I had a great time. This was a ball and the best way that we could have spent a Sunday afternoon. Thank you, thank you, thank you to everybody.
Thank you. I can't thank you guys enough. I'm just overjoyed. I'm happy that we were able to do it. The last time we did it in person, it was even better, virtual, because we reach more people that are out of state as well. And so I just pray that we're able to do this again and reach more and more students and just get the word out and just keep empowering our young minds. So, okay, guys, well, I guess that's it. Oh, thank you guys so much. Guys, check your
was in and out. I don't know. Is she gone?
Who?
Dr. Forte. She was.
Yeah, she's out. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So guys, pay attention to your emails.
Oh, there she is.
There she is. Oh, so pay attention to your emails because everyone's contact information is on them. So you guys can reach out. We can all be a resource to each other because I notice a lot of people in the mental health field. We're all in the service-oriented field. Every last single one of us. And Dr. Forte, you're a doctor. Jemiah wants to be a cardiologist. We have Marco, and so we all let's use our resources. Let's help each other out. Chef Locke cooks. Mary Muhammad has a tutoring service. Dr. Davis has a consultant service. You have to get, Dr. Davis is talking about me. You guys have to get her books, Unleashed and Unafraid. And when I tell you, and I got the idea from the conference, from her conferences are so powerful. I couldn't stop crying. I had no idea. That was my first time experiencing a conference like that, where you actually walk away with tools that you use. I mean, I find myself going back to her book. Okay, wait a minute, what did she say on page 38? Wait a minute. Reading it again and using the tools. Unleashed and Unafraid, volume 1 and volume 2. She has a clothing line with it. And when I tell you she teaches you how to live your life unleashed and unafraid, yes. There's a difference between just being unafraid and you're not unleashed. You have to be unleashed and unafraid. And that's what our students need going to college as well, being unleashed and unafraid, to be who you are and to do what you're supposed to do while you're on this earth. So reach out to Dr. Davis, Dr. Sabrina Davis, and get that book, guys, volume 1 and volume 2, right? And she's a coach, she speaks, you need her at a speaking event. Let's use our resources and use each other. Mary's tutorial service with students that need help. She's always out there going, tutoring them in math, science, you name it. I even called Mary. Hey, Mary, what is this equation? I forgot. I know we went over it in high school. She was like, oh, you don't remember? She gave me the acronym. I was like, you still remember that? So we all have KIM, emergency management. When I tell you emergency management, literally, we were at some event. I promise I can't make this up. Some event, and we were having a situation. She got out of the car and she had an emergency management vest I said, who carries around an emergency management vest? And she started directing traffic, getting things back in order. I was like, okay, I'm done. The orange vest, I was like, really? You really have an orange vest? But that's what she does. Mr. Roberts, getting back his pageants, teaching young ladies and young men how to carry themselves and teaching them etiquette. This is the guy, the go-to guy that started all the pageants that they're doing now on the college campuses. Mr. Roberts started that. And he's just like that. I just can't believe it. His resume, everybody's resume was just so powerful and just so it was so loving and so genuine, and just everyone has a heart for the people, like Dr. Davis said, and a servant of God, like Mary said. And so guys, just keep on what you're doing. Thank you again. Thank you. And I pray everyone have a good day, the rest of a good day. Thank you so much.
All right.
Love you
Bye-bye.
guys. Okay,
Mhm.
see you soon.